Good morning, everyone. The time is 9:37 and a quorum of the board is present. The State Board of Education meeting scheduled for November 13th, 2025 is called to order. Is there an approval? The first item on the agenda is approval of the agenda in order of priority. Are there any items the board members would like to add or delete to today's agenda? Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, I would make a motion to remove item G, the health standards, and I'll speak to that motion after seconding.
So moved.
Supported by discussion.
Are there any discussion?
Yeah, I would just say that it's clear these health standards should be removed. The public comment was, the official public comment was 78% opposed to these standards. And there has been no changes. There was a lot of they were just moved around, the standards. So there's been nothing that is objectionable, that public comment found objectionable. None of it was removed or changed in any significant way. So that is certainly a reason why this should be removed from the agenda, and the department should make substantive changes based on public comment. The overwhelming majority, which I've never seen before in my life on the board here. And so that is one reason. Also, there's no legal basis for 99% of the content of the sex education standards. And so I think those that would be another reason why the department needs to go back and redo these and follow the law, follow what public comment was, and then bring them back at some point.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Anyone else? Any other? Ms.
I'll
Snyder.
add to that. We had a gentleman passing out a petition with 1,500 signatures on it. That was more than we had a petition even during COVID, when communities were decrying masks, required masks. So I will say that in the 9 years that I've served on the board, this is probably the most contentious issue that we have seen brought before it. I would even deviate from what Tom is saying. I don't think the department should be writing these standards. I didn't develop them. I didn't encourage them to develop them. Be very interesting to see who on this board did. That is our statutory responsibility. I also think that Dr. Maleko should be sitting in your place while we debate this and while this is addressed. I think it is one layer of incredible dysfunction that the department continues to have. This idea of protecting the next state superintendent from having to deal with controversial issues is not okay. So I think it should be taken off of the agenda, and the State Board of Education should be charged with its actual constitutional responsibility of developing standards and adopting them.
Thank you, Ms. Snyder. Any other discussion? All right. Hearing none, Ms. Evans, please take a roll call vote.
Bullock?
Yes. Here.
No, this is to remove item G from the agenda.
Oh,
Lipton? No. McMillan?
yes.
Pritchett?
No.
Pugh?
No.
Robinson?
No.
Snyder?
Yes.
And Tilly?
No.
Motion fails.
At this time, Ms. Evans.
We have to approve the full agenda.
Thank you very much. All right, at this time, we'll approve the full agenda. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Lifton. Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Senator Bullock. Now, Ms. Evans. Any discussion? Ms. Evans, will you do a roll call vote, please?
Bullock?
Here.
Lipton?
Yes or no?
Yeah.
It's yes or no.
Yes or no?
Bullock, yes. Lipton?
Yes.
McMillan?
No.
Pritchett?
Yes.
Pugh? Yes. Robinson?
Yes.
Snyder?
No.
And Tilly? Yes. Motion passes.
All right, thank you. Now, at this time, Ms. Evans, State Board Executive, will introduce members of the State Board. Ms. Evans?
Good morning. You have just been listening to Dr. Sue C. Carnell, Chairperson of the State Board and Interim State Superintendent. To her left around the table is Board President Dr. Pamela Pugh from Saginaw, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Ellen Cogan-Lipton from Huntington Woods, NASB Delegate Dr. Mitchell Robinson from Okemos, Ms. Nikki Snyder, and Mr. Corey Rosser, 2025 Michigan Teacher of the Year. I apologize. And Ms. Emma Young, Deputy Director of Public Policy in the Governor's Office and ex officio to the Board. Now seated on the table to my right is Mr. Tom McMillan from Oakland Township, Board Treasurer Mr. Marshall Bullock from Detroit, Board Co-Vice President Ms. Tiffany Tilley from West Bloomfield, and Board Secretary Dr. Judith Pritchett from Washington Township.
All right, thank you. The public may register to provide public comment during the public participation portion of the meeting today at around 1 o'clock. Those wishing to make public comment must register before 1 p.m. To provide a public comment by telephone, please complete the registration form on the MDE webpage, which is michigan.gov/MDE. To provide public comment in person, please complete the green registration form on the table outside the boardroom or in the overflow rooms. These instructions are also listed on MDE's webpage, michigan.gov/MDE. The first item on today's agenda is item A, a presentation on the 2025 Blue Ribbon Schools recognition.
I'd like to make.
Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, I think that we could be possibly in violation of the Open Meetings Act. I don't think, and I warned the state superintendent that there could be a very large number of people here. Boards that do this locally, they anticipate that and they leave, or they go to another location that would accommodate larger crowds. And so I just wanted to kind of give notice that I'm not exactly sure. I saw a ton of people still wanting to get up to be here at this meeting, and so there could be a possible Open Meetings Act violation. I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. We did talk to our attorneys regarding that, and we are covered, so thank you. Ready to move forward? Thank you. All right. The first item on today's agenda is item A, a presentation of the 2025 Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools. The presentation will provide a brief overview of the program and share what distinguishes each school as a Blue Ribbon School. We are honored today to recognize Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools and present the schools with a Certificate of Achievement. We welcome our presenters, Dr. Delsa Chapman, Deputy Superintendent of the Division of Assessment, School Improvement and System Support, Dr. Corinne Edwards, Director of the Office of Educational Supports, Ms. Rachel Bowerman, Consultant in the Office of Educational Support, and Mr. Michael McKaylee, Accountability Specialist, Office of Educational Assessment and Accountability. Good morning and thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Carnell, and good morning, Board. We are excited to highlight our 2025 Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools today. We will begin the presentation with an overview of the program. The National Blue Ribbon Schools program was one of the U.S. Department of Education's, or USED, longest running recognition programs. Established in 1982 by Terrell H. Bell, U.S. Secretary of Education at the time, this prestigious award aimed to recognize schools with exemplary academic achievement and those that excelled at closing achievement gaps. Using criteria established by USED, the Michigan Department of Education was invited to select up to 13 public schools to receive the award annually. USED notified states that it had ended this program on August 29, 2025, and included a statement in the program discontinuation notification encouraging state education agencies to recognize the 2025 nominees. Michigan's nominated schools successfully completed all requirements of the process prior to the program's end date and will be duly recognized today. Dr. Edwards will now lead us into the celebration of Michigan's 2025 Blue Ribbon Schools. Dr. Edwards.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman, and good morning. The Michigan Department of Education analyzes multi-year proficiency data from statewide assessments, ensuring nominated schools rank in the top 15% statewide in both English language arts and mathematics. The criteria to select the 13 public schools includes strong performance among the following student groups: all students, economically disadvantaged, students with disabilities, English learners, racial and ethnic groups. It is with great honor that we present to you the 2025 Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools. And now Mrs. Bowerman and Mr. McHale will begin the recognition ceremony.
Thank you, Dr. Edwards. Good morning, Board, MDE staff, guests, and honorees. Prior to the representatives of each school coming forward to receive their Certificate of Achievement, brief highlights of the school reported reflection as part of the nomination process will be shared. Upon receiving their certificate, the school representatives will be photographed along with Interim State Superintendent Dr. Sue Carnell and Board President Dr. Pamela Pugh. And now Mr. McHale will introduce our first 6 honorees. Michael?
Thank you, Rochelle. Good morning, Board, MDE staff, guests, and to our honorees. We will now recognize our 2025 Michigan School Blue Ribbon Schools. Dr. Carnell, will you and Dr. Pugh please join Ms. Hodges, Manager of the Office of Educational Supports, Educational Experiences Unit at the awards table to distribute certificates of recognition to our 2025 Michigan Blue Ribbon School districts and school representatives. Ammerman Elementary School, Northville Public Schools, with Principal Devin Caudill and Superintendent Dr. R.J. Weber. Also with us today are Elizabeth Lamana, Learning Consultant, and Katie Rourke, District Communications Specialist. Ammerman Elementary School in Northville, Michigan, is a vibrant learning community where leadership, innovation, and academic excellence converge. Nestled in a suburban neighborhood rich in history and culture, Ammerman serves a diverse student population in the grades K through 5, fostering a strong sense of belonging and purpose. At the heart of Ammerman's success is its commitment to develop the whole child. Through the Leader in Me framework, students are empowered to take ownership of their learning and lead with integrity, empathy, and confidence. Ammerman's instructional approach is grounded in personalized learning, data-driven practices, and a belief in collective efficacy. Ammerman's dedication to continuous improvement and community engagement makes it a truly exceptional place to learn, grow, and lead. Congratulations, Ammerman Elementary School. Representatives, please come forward.
Thank you to the board. On behalf of Northville, I'd just like to say thank you for doing what the federal government refused to do, which is to acknowledge that our public educators and educators in this state mean something. They matter. Their kids matter. So thank you for taking your time to recognize such incredible people like Elizabeth and Devin and who they're representing for us. I'm grateful for each of you, and thanks for recognizing that we do matter.
School, Angel School, Ann Arbor Public Schools, with Principal Meg Finnick and Superintendent Jazz Parks. We also have Abby Stull, an Angel school teacher, Melita Alston, Executive Director of Elementary Education. Founded in 1923, Angel School is the oldest elementary school in Ann Arbor, Michigan, and a vibrant community of approximately 300 students where cultural and linguistic diversity are embraced as assets. Angel School provides engaging instruction that elevates equity, empowers all learners, and connects deeply with the community. Weekly project Lead the Way, PLTW, classes provide hands-on STEM learning while a one-on-one Chromebook program ensures collaboration and creativity across subjects. Ranked among Michigan's top 10 elementary schools, Angel stands out not only for its academic excellence, but also for its legacy. For more than 100 years, Angel has been a place where children grow as learners, leaders, and compassionate citizens of the world. Congratulations, Angel School. School representatives, please come forward. City High Middle School, Grand Rapids Public Schools. Principal Charlotte Vandervliet, Superintendent Dr. Lidrian Roby, and also with us today are Christy Modulewski, Assistant Principal, Kimberly Buchek, School Board President, Luke Steyer, Director of Communications and External Affairs, Evan Linnert, Communication and Visual Content Manager, and Ari Wade, Vice President of Grand Rapids Public School District Board of Education. City High Middle is a theme school within Grand Rapids Public School District, an urban school district in Grand Rapids, Michigan. City serves approximately 1,000 scholars in grades 7 through 12 from within the district and surrounding areas. City High Middle is proud to offer both the International Baccalaureate's middle years and diploma programs at no cost to all families. The goal of both programs is to develop lifelong learners who are naturally curious, seek knowledge, think about complex issues, and communicate confidently and creatively. City scholars through the IB program are well prepared for post-secondary education. City has a long-standing legacy of high academic standards coupled with positive school climate that has resulted in our school community consistently earning top rankings across the region, state, and nation. The city community is committed to the stewardship of its campus and natural environment, as well as the cultivation of scholarly understanding of sustainability, ownership, and education of the world around us. Congratulations, City High Middle School. School representatives, please come forward. Countryside Elementary School and Byron Public Center Public Schools. Principal is Cindy Vivine, Superintendent Kevin Messina, and also with us today are Jeff Wierzbicki, Assistant Superintendent, Catherine Hager, Academic Support Instructor, and Kim Reinsch, third grade teacher. Countryside Elementary School, nestled in the heart of Byron Center, Michigan, is a vibrant learning community where tradition and innovation come together to shape the future. Serving students in kindergarten through fourth grade, Countryside is home to a dedicated team of educators and school support staff who work tirelessly to meet the academic, social, and emotional needs of every child. Through the Professional Learning Community, PLC, process and a multi-tiered system of supports, MTSS, teachers collaborate and analyze data to provide targeted instruction and meaningful interventions. Their Super Switch and Double Dip programs deliver personalized support in reading and math. Beyond academics, Countryside is deeply committed to cultivating leadership and character. The Leader in Me framework, positive behavior, interventions and supports, PBIS, and capturing kids' hearts are embedded into daily practice, helping students develop responsibility, empathy, and confidence. At Countryside, every child is empowered to learn, lead, and succeed. Congratulations, Countryside Elementary School. Representatives, please come forward. Some of them. Hamilton Elementary School, Hamilton Community Schools, with Principal Dean Kramer, Superintendent Brad Lusk, and also with us today are Kelly Church, first grade teacher, and Megan Peterson, physical education teacher, serving approximately 375 students from young fives through grade 4 in a supportive rural West Michigan community. Hamilton's dedicated staff work together to create a safe, welcoming, and engaging environment where every student is valued and challenged to reach their potential. The school is proud of its inclusive programming, which supports learners with a wide range of abilities. The team blends fresh ideas with proven practices using data-driven decision-making to guide every instructional choice. Through the use of multi-tiered systems of support, MTSS, for reading and behavior, the school provides targeted interventions, clear expectations, and consistent encouragement so each child can thrive academically and socially. Being named a Blue Ribbon School affirms that what Hamilton does work, preparing students for purpose in a warm, welcoming, and supportive community. As the school says, we are Hawkeyes. Congratulations, Hamilton Schools, Elementary School. School representatives, please come forward. Forest Grove Elementary School in Hudsonville Public Schools. Principal Joe Shemansky, Superintendent Doug Vanderjack, and also with us today are Amy Taylor, Assistant Superintendent of Curriculum and Instruction, Greg Chinsky, Board of Education President, John Gillett, who is a retired recently Forest Grove principal, Jill Vandenend, Student Support Specialist, Katie Farrell, Instructional Coach, Kim Mulder, Teacher, and Jen Gillespie, Teacher. Forest Grove Elementary, a rural school located just outside of the city of Hudsonville in West Michigan, provides a nurturing environment and great education for 250-plus students. In pre-kindergarten through grades 5, the school's mission is to educate, challenge, and inspire all learners to become contributing and responsible members of a global society. The dedicated staff of Forest Grove is committed to ensuring that the instructional and social needs of all students are met. Their efforts through academic collaborative teams, a school-wide PBIS, Positive Behavior Intervention System framework, and a data-driven instruction speak to their exemplary excellence. A previous winner of this award in 2015 confirms that Forest Grove is dedicated to best practices in caring for the whole child while providing a safe and nurturing learning environment. Congratulations, Forest Grove Elementary School. School representatives, please come forward.
Tall fellas in the back. Yeah, make sure you. Yep, you are in. All right, 1, 2, 3, and one more, 2, 3. Thank you.
Now, Ms. Bowerman will introduce the remaining honorees. Rochelle?
Thanks, Michael. We will continue with our honorees. Jeffers Elementary School, Spring Lake Public Schools. Principal, Dr. Kristen DeWitt. Superintendent, Dennis Furton. Also with us today, Heidi Ryan, first grade teacher. Julie Marcus, third grade teacher. Katie Van Single, literacy coach. Maddie Nogar, social worker. And David Tooney, director of communications. Jeffers Elementary is a thriving learning community where every student is encouraged to grow, achieve, and belong. As a proud, heart-smart school, Jeffers cultivates a culture of kindness, empathy, and personal responsibility. Students are routinely recognized for their excellence and model behavior, and the full staff buy-in to the heart-smart positive behavioral interventions and supports approach has elevated the climate of the entire school. Academic achievement is equally prioritized. Students at Jeffers show significant growth throughout the school year with very few in need of additional support by year's end. Jeffers Elementary is more than a school. It is a model of what happens when academic rigor, emotional intelligence, and unwavering commitment come together. It is a place where students learn not only how to succeed in the classroom, but how to thrive as members of a compassionate and connected community. Congratulations, Jeffers Elementary School. Representatives, please come forward.
All right, 1, 2, 3.
Lakewood Elementary School, West Ottawa Public Schools. Principal, Michael Garib. Superintendent, Timothy Bearden. Also with us today, Kristen Graham, Associate Superintendent of Elementary Curriculum and Instruction, and Michelle Sharamita, Kindergarten Teacher. At Lakewood Elementary, relationships are at the heart of everything we do, guided by our theme, Better Together. Lakewood staff and students work to cultivate meaningful, lasting connections with one another and within the broader community. This strong relational foundation is what fuels the school's high expectations and supports academic success. Through professional learning communities, its teachers work in grade-level teams to analyze student data and support the academic and emotional growth of every child. Lakewood also strengthens community ties through project-based learning, which connects students with real-world experiences and local partners. These strong bonds between students, staff, and the community are what make Lakewood feel like a family. They are central to the warm, welcoming, and high-achieving culture that has defined the school for years and will continue to for many more. Congratulations, Lakewood Elementary School. Representatives, please come forward. Novi Woods Elementary School, Novi Community School District. Principal, Alice Kazee. Superintendent, Benjamin Minka. Novi Woods Elementary School, located in Novi, Michigan, is a vibrant and inclusive learning community where diversity is celebrated and student success is a shared priority. With over 20 languages spoken among its students, the school embraces the rich cultural backgrounds that make it unique. Its strong academic foundation, dedicated staff, and commitment to excellence help every child reach their full potential. One program at Novi Woods Elementary stands out. Woods U Rather is a unique enrichment program that fosters creativity, curiosity, and connection across grade levels. In this cross-age setting, students participate in engaging, hands-on lessons designed and taught by the school's own talented staff. The program offers a wide variety of enrichment opportunities, from STEM challenges to arts, culture, and more, allowing students to explore new interests while building relationships with peers and staff outside their regular classroom. Woods U Rather reflects the school's commitment to whole child development in a fun and collaborative environment and gives students an opportunity to experience and learn high-interest topics that are not found in a traditional curriculum. Novi Woods Elementary is proud of its students, families, and staff as they continue to work collaboratively in providing a top-notch education. Congratulations, Novi Woods Elementary School. School representatives, please come forward.
All right, 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Thank you.
Orchard Primary School, Elmont Community Schools. Principal, Adam Bruno. Superintendent, Kim Von Hiltmeyer. Also with us today are Kim Odette, special education teacher, Chris Ruhala, third grade teacher, Kelly Nikolich, third grade teacher, Melissa Kleckner, second grade teacher, and Lisa Landashir, young fives teacher. Orchard Primary is at the heart of a tight-knit community of Elmont, Michigan, and truly embodies what it means to be an elementary school. Its teachers provide exceptional differentiation and high-quality instruction to meet the diverse needs of a wide range of unique learners. The school's WIN, What I Need intervention program, provides targeted supports to those students who need additional opportunities to grow as learners. The hard work and commitment from the team are evident in its exceptional academic achievement on state assessments. What sets Orchard Primary apart is that high expectations and excellence extend far beyond the academic realm. Teachers instill a sense of kindness, care, and altruism in their students. The school prides itself on its Raider expectations, ready to learn, always be safe, do the right thing, which set a foundation for the social emotional learning that takes place within the building. Above all else, the sense of community is what makes Orchard Primary special. The school's teacher and staff have an exceptional sense of commitment to their students. The Parent-Teacher Association provides dedicated and consistent support for the improvement of the school's students and staff. Additionally, Orchard Primary's families are collaborative in supporting the whole school community. Congratulations, Orchard Primary School. Representatives, please come forward. Plymouth Scholars Charter Academy. Principal Sabrina Terenzi. Also with us today are Marcella Rogers, Dean, Jamie Steeb, Dean, Dina Murray, Dean, Kim Bondi, Director of School Quality, Lindsay Brown, Academic Specialist, and Balveer Kaur, EL Coordinator. Plymouth Scholars Charter Academy is a young 5 through 8 public charter school in Plymouth, Michigan, proudly serving over 800 students each year with a wait list of about 1,000. For 12 years, families have chosen the school for its high academic expectations, moral focus, curriculum, strong parental partnerships, and emphasis on student accountability. The school believes all students can achieve, especially when they feel a sense of belonging and connection, which is fostered through strong relationships with students and families, consistent communication, engaging events, and individualized support. PSCA's rigorous, engaging instruction is tailored to each student, preparing them for a smooth transition to high school and beyond. The school embraces diversity and cultural awareness, filling its hallways with representatives of diverse leaders and cultures. Its annual Multicultural Day and parent-led cultural presentations enrich students' understanding of the world around them. Plymouth Scholars Charter Academy is proud to serve its community with an excellent education grounded in academics, citizenship, and collaboration. Congratulations, Plymouth Plymouth Scholars Charter Academy. School representatives, please come forward. Wass Elementary School, Troy School District. Principal, Kristen Crow. Also with us today are Kelly Nagel, first grade teacher, Christine Griffer, assistant superintendent for elementary education, and not able to make it today, but we wanted to recognize Richard Macheski, the superintendent. The purpose of Wass Elementary is to ensure that each child reaches their highest learning potential. The school philosophy is to create a positive and safe learning environment where students can thrive within a world-class curriculum. The heart of the school is the relationships among each other. Wass Elementary believes that students do better with teachers who care about them. Its teachers develop personal relationships with all students and work collaboratively to educate the whole child. The school has some very innovative initiatives, including character education practices, the Wass Wolves Way. Students love the monthly Wolfpack meetings where the core values of responsibility, respect, integrity, and perseverance are deepened. Character education practices at Wass set the table for teachers' instruction and students' learning. Literacy is the spine of instruction, and Wass Elementary uses the workshop model to ensure a differentiated approach for its students. The best part of Wass Elementary School is the children. The school has children from nearly every race and ethnicity imaginable. It is remarkable to see how children from such diverse backgrounds, cultures, religions, and appearances can get along so well with one another. That's the Wass Wolves Way. Congratulations, Wass Elementary School. Representatives, please come forward. Weedman Elementary School, Chippewa Hills School District. Principal, Star Letterer, Superintendent, Michelle Newman. Also with us today, Laura Waldron, Elementary Interventionist, Kyle Taliska, Assistant Superintendent, and Anthony Gibson, School Board President. Rural charm defines the Weedman community and Weedman Elementary School. This small town school serves as the heart of its community, where 75% of students face economic hardships, yet 100% are believed in. Through ongoing progress monitoring, fidelity checks, and data collection on student engagement and skill mastery, our school uses hard evidence to guide decisions, ensuring each student receives the type of instruction, intervention, and support they need to become fluent readers. At Weedman Elementary, we are deeply proud of our dedicated teachers, our hardworking staff, our resilient students, and the strong partnerships we share with our families and community. Together, we create an incredible learning environment where every child is afforded every opportunity to thrive and succeed as learners. Congratulations, Weedman Elementary. School representatives, please come forward. Let's give our 13 Michigan Blue Ribbon Public Schools a final round of applause. Thank you, Dr. Pugh and Dr. Carnell. Back to you, Dr. Chapman.
Thanks, Rochelle. While the Michigan Department of Education has worked directly to select these exemplary high-performing schools, Michigan has historically also selected non-public schools through the Council for American Private Education, also known as CAPE, to nominate private schools that meet the criteria for recognition. CAPE worked with its affiliate in Michigan, the Michigan Association of Non-Public Schools, or MANS, to identify the three outstanding Michigan non-public schools shown here on the screen. All Saints Catholic Schools of Canton, Michigan, Bishop Foley Catholic High School, Madison Heights, and St. Paul the Apostle School of Grand Rapids. We would like to offer these schools our heartfelt congratulations as well. It has been an honor to celebrate our 2025 Michigan Blue Ribbon Schools. MDE is currently looking at other ways to carry on the tradition of honoring its schools. We hope to announce this program in early 2026. Dr. Carnell and board, we truly appreciate the time and opportunity availed to us today for this recognition. Thank you, and back to you, Dr. Carnell.
Chapman. Congratulations to all the recipients of the Blue Ribbon School. It is an honor and a privilege to be able to celebrate your accomplishment at today's State Board of Education meeting. Board members, do you have any questions or comments?
Congratulations, and we are so happy that we were able to provide the space to uplift and recognize you. Thank you for your amazing work.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. On the agenda is item B, a presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan, goal 4, expand secondary learning opportunities for students. This presentation on Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan will feature goal 4. And our presenters, welcome back to the table, is Dr. Delsa Chapman, Dr. Corinne Edwards. Joining us is Dr. Michelle Harmala, Deputy Superintendent of the Division of Educator Excellence Center, Career Technical Education, Special Education, and Administrative Law. Also joining us at the table is Ms. Selena Mills, Director of the Office of Career and Technical Education, and Ms. Terry Rink, Office of Special Education. This is an informational presentation, and I'll turn it over to the presenters.
Thank you, Dr. Carnell, and good morning again, board. Today, we are coming before you to provide an update on the efforts and metrics specific to Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan goal 4, expanding secondary learning opportunities for all students. Here you see there are 6 sets of success measures which create the opportunity to meet Goal 4 by expanding secondary learning opportunities that provide rigor and a foundation for reflective insight on post-graduation plans for a very viable future. And now to Dr. Harmala to highlight Goal 4 of Michigan's top 10 strategic education plan.
Thank you. As you can see on the screen, this particular goal is Goal 4, expanding secondary learning opportunities, but we know that in the work we do with Goal 4, that it also has an effect on our graduation rates, which is Goal 5, and the post-secondary credentials that students earn, which is Goal 6. Today, we're going to highlight Goal 4, and I'm going to start off with Selena Mills, our Director of Career and Technical Education.
Thank you. So we're going to look first at career and technical education and how it meets Goal 4. So I'm going to show you several numbers that you probably also have before you. We are really excited that in CTE, or career and technical education, we are meeting record high number of students enrolled. So we're just shy of 115,000, students, and that's an increase over the past several years. And then if you look at these numbers, this will show you our students by student group. So we've increased the number of students with disabilities and the number of English learners that we have participating in CTE. You will see a slight decrease in economically disadvantaged students participating. However, if you look back to 22-23, you'll see that our 24-25 numbers are comparable to that. So there was actually a bump in the previous year, but now we're back to those same 22-23 numbers. And then here you'll see the number of students enrolled in CTE by ethnicity. You can see that we have increases in almost every one of these categories, or we're staying the same. And then beyond just enrollment, we're excited about students who complete a full program. So that means they've completed an entire sequence of courses in CTE, completing that full set of competencies or standards. So you'll see that has also increased in the last year. And again, you'll see those numbers of completers by ethnicity. And we have a slight dip in one category by about 4 students. But again, that's an increase over the numbers in 22-23. And then here you'll see our completers by student group. And one of the things that we pride ourselves in CTE is that students who participate are more likely to graduate when they've participated in a CTE program. So we have high graduation rates of over 95%. So we wanted to show you those numbers as well. So the number of students here that have received a high school diploma is shown to you by both gender. And then we also have those numbers again by student group and ethnicity. And again, by our other populations that we look at. So students with disabilities, economically disadvantaged, and English learners all have an increase in the number of students who received a high school diploma. And then not only do we like to look at quantitative data, but in CTE we often look at qualitative data. So we wanted to show just a couple of student stories to you. So I wanted to introduce you on the screen to Brody. Brody is one of our students who not only participated and completed a program, but earned certifications. So he earned over 21 certifications to become a master diesel mechanic. So that master diesel mechanic is a state of Michigan license that he can take directly out of high school and into the field and start light years ahead of the rest of his peers. So he is out and working and excited to be in the workforce and contributing. And then I also wanted to introduce you to Hannah. And Hannah is one of our students at Genesee Career Institute. She is a welding student, which makes her a non-traditional student for her gender, but she succeeded there and then now has come back and is working on their business advisory committee to help encourage other students to take this program.
Over to you.
Oh, I had advanced placement.
Oh, no, that's you still. Sorry, Selena, we jumped too soon.
We did.
We're trying to move fast because we're behind and we skipped right over Selena's second part.
Yeah, so we also, in the Office of Career and Technical Education, oversee early middle college. And we've seen some great changes there as well. So we, again, have a large number of increases in early middle college programs, so we're seeing more students participate there, and that's very exciting because it offers them an opportunity to earn certifications and degrees while still in high school, and again, to enter post-secondary education early and to finish early and then enter the workforce. So here you'll see those students, again, by ethnicity who've been enrolled in those early middle college programs, increases in almost every category. And then you'll see those by student groups. So again, a slight dip in economically disadvantaged, but overall an increase in our other categories. And then those students who enroll are also working then to meet some of those outcomes. So we did see a slight decrease in some of these outcomes for early middle college. We believe that some of that is due to an exiting code issue that we are, again, working to rectify. And then here again are the number of students who enrolled but did not complete. So this is the way that we have been working on early middle college to expand some of those opportunities. We have been partnering with other departments and other agencies, and we've also been working to promote college and high school by working on a communications toolkit and a data toolkit to help those early middle college programs promote what they're doing and to look at their own data to help increase and monitor those metrics. And then these are links to those toolkits if you're interested in looking at them. And then finally, we have a few success stories to show you here. So we have Megan from Linden High School who earned 62 college credits during high school. So you can see if you look at those bullet points that this really helped her move faster through her post-secondary education and then attend Arizona State University and continue to move on into the workforce. And then here you'll see Angela. She earned an associate degree from Kalamazoo Valley Community College and then has now moved on and graduated from Western Michigan University. And Napoleon earned 32 college credits. He is still continuing to work on that and to earn more. And he has moved into the ROTC program and is participating at GCI.
I think that's me.
And then it's
Good morning again. We're going to turn our attention to advanced placement. And advanced placement courses and exams do give students the chance to take college level work while they are yet in high school and have the potential to earn college credit based on a corresponding AP exam score administered by the College Board. Several different courses of study and exams are offered through the program. And for Michigan's secondary students, access to AP courses continues to be a desired thing. When we look at enrollment, there has been a steady increase in AP participation following the pandemic decline. In 24-25, AP course enrollment increased by 3.2%. Diverse ethnic groups, or excuse me, student groups enrolled in AP courses continues to grow as well. It's noted as we look at enrollment by economic status that students facing economic hardship experienced a slight or negative 2.2% decrease over the 2024-25 rate of non-economically disadvantaged students. Here we can see that more students are taking AP exams in the state, which has rebounded since the 18-19 decline with a 4.5% increase in last year's 24-25. Regarding students taking one or more AP exams, all students groups show a higher rate of participation except for our Native Americans and Alaska Natives. Excuse me. Statewide, our students are scoring higher than they ever have in the past on AP exams, with that increase showing at 11.2% and 13.3% respectively. A reminder that a score of 3 or higher on an AP course exam is recognized by a majority of our post-secondary institutions to award college credit or waive some course requirements. Here again, we see similar gains in the increased performance in several of our student groups. Efforts to expand secondary learning opportunities for advanced placement include the use of the AP Potential Tool. As part of the College Board AP Potential Tool effort, our former state superintendent sent letters in November of 2024 to the parents and guardians of over 81,500 Michigan students who demonstrated on the PSAT 8-9 or the PSAT 10 to have substantial ability to succeed in AP or similarly rigorous coursework. The intent of the letter is to encourage parents and students to consider advanced coursework with substantial rigor, such as opportunities in AP, CTE, early middle college, dual enrollment, and international baccalaureate. These letters may provide validation and motivation to students to stay in school and graduate and allow them to see themselves in new learning spaces. In addition to motivating Michigan students to participate in expanded learning, secondary learning, MDE supports students who participate in AP and CLEP testing, which awards college credit depending on the score they receive as well. The exam fees are reimbursed by MDE to the local school district. For the 2024-25 school year, MDE reimbursed over $1.1 million for AP exams of free and reduced price lunch eligible students, a metric that is used to determine both federal and state funding opportunities. MDE also publishes a cross-reference list of the AP and CLEP score needed to receive credit that is specific to all the public community and four-year colleges in Michigan, and this list is updated yearly. As a spotlight, we want to salute Joshua on his participation in both dual enrollment and AP courses while in high school, receiving multiple credits from Montcalm Community College. Now we'll turn our attention to dual enrollment. Dual enrollment participation has continued to climb with an 8.6% increase in the past year. MDE continues to provide encouragement, technical assistance, and support to districts implementing dual enrollment programs. MDE and the Education Experiences Unit is involved with many state and national organizations. The staff meets regularly with Accelerate Ed, My College Access Network, and Midwestern Higher Education Compact. This year, the Office of Educational Support's Education Experiences Unit also partnered with CTE, Early Middle College Unit, to present at several different conferences, including MASSP. And we believe this collaboration with CTE helps districts with post-secondary initiatives from both offices. This has led to individual webinars for parents and students, as well as with 2- and 4-year colleges across our state. We would also like to recognize and salute Grace for her accomplishments this year. Under the Post-Secondary Options Act, all public and state-approved schools are required to offer dual enrollment. Again, dual enrollment gives students the opportunity to take up to 10 college courses or more under expanded dual enrollment without being in a 5-year EMC program. It lets students pursue college courses related to their life's goals and educational development plans. And we again salute Grace for taking full advantage of this opportunity. In the past year, Michigan schools have collaborated with several different colleges to expand dual enrollment. Over the past year, you can go to the next slide, thank you. Over the past year, we've collaborated with universities to offer dual enrollment as well. CMU's Fire Up Forward program is one example of students being able to start on a bachelor's degree while in high school. Regarding our international baccalaureate programs, secondary schools may apply to be authorized IB programs international, that is an International Baccalaureate World School. IB diploma program completion meets the Michigan Merit Curriculum standards for participating students. Upon successful completion of IB assessments related to IB courses taken, a student is awarded an IB transcript. Students have the potential to earn credit at several colleges around the state based on the IB exam score received. Total students in IB participation has remained relatively consistent over previous years, with a moderate increase we saw in 2023-24. It should again be noted that participation in IB is based upon a school or district's authorization to offer the program. When we look at data of our students enrolled in IP that identify within specific student groups, we acknowledge that there was a downward shift in participation by student groups in 22-23, with participation ticking upward slightly in 23 and 24. On this slide, we see the number of students enrolled in IP in relation to economically disadvantaged and not economically disadvantaged students. MDE continues its efforts to expand secondary learning opportunities for international baccalaureate participation. Districts with an IB diploma program receive support from MDE for exam costs related to qualified students. MDE has a webpage and an education consultant whose responsibilities include providing supports to schools in this area. I'll now turn the presentation over to Terry Reek.
Good morning, everyone. So to wrap this up, we have some indicators that we pay attention to for students with disabilities who have a current IEP. They're required to have a completed transition plan by the time they're 16 years old, and that factors in their education development plan. It also considers the course of study and whether or not the student will be in need or supported by a personal curriculum. And as you can see, there's a slight drop in our percentage points, but as you look at our trend data, we have stayed pretty consistent over the past several years. The second piece of data that we look at has to do with a survey that we send to students who leave the school system, and we're interested in knowing how many of them continue on with their education or a certain type of employment. This is a survey, so this is not the same group of folks who respond year to year. It's a different group each year. Last year, we had a higher than normal rate of kids who responded from some of our urban schools. And so you can see, even though there was a slight drop in that, the numbers over time have been pretty consistent. Some of the things that we're doing to work with districts to improve those outcomes has to do with some of our work in visiting schools and spending time in districts talking to staff. We're really encouraging districts to consider discipline data, looking at how it may be impacting dropout and in turn graduation. And then we're also making sure that students with disabilities are being educated in the least restrictive environment so they have the greatest opportunity for exposure to academics from content experts in general education.
Thank you very much. I want you to just think about for a minute all the opportunities we shared with you for our students in high school to not only obtain a secondary credential, but to graduate and to have pathways that support their interests and their growth. We're seeing increases in all areas. The decreases we did see were largely because we had increases the previous year. They didn't turn out to be statistically significant. So in other words, they kind of ride the white lines of the road. They're staying in the lane they should be in. So we'll continue to watch that data and continue to offer opportunities for our students. Thank you.
Thank you, presenters. Board members, any questions or comments for our presenters this morning? Ms. Lipton.
Thank you so much for the presentation, and I agree that the data you shared is very encouraging from the standpoint of the multitude of opportunities as well as the efforts that the department is making to provide these opportunities. I would like to just focus a bit on the early middle college. And no particular slide, but the discussion begins around slide 22. And I do want to congratulate the department on putting together the early middle college post-secondary manual, as well as the EMC student and special populations manual. I think that that goes a long way in providing guidance to school districts in order to prepare and sort of immerse themselves in the early middle college space very successfully. I would like to drill in a little bit on the funding model for early middle college. And if the department has thought about ways to address this. So it's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that early middle college to be successful requires certain sort of preconditions. In other words, the school district, in fact, might lose the funding allowance that they would get for the student if the student was educated in the particular school district, because it then gets sort of transferred to the community college where the student is taking their classes. So is it true that it might be a net loss of funding for the school district and perhaps a net gain, if you will, of money to the community college? And that might be a reason why a school district might not want to embark on an early middle college program?
Go ahead.
There is an initial, sometimes loss when a school district embarks on an early middle college program because there's an investment up front. But over time, they're able to recoup those costs, and then the system should help it pay for itself. So it is something that they initially look at when they're determining whether or not they're going to open an early middle college. There are some additional funds that we do offer for certain types of early middle college that does help offset some of that cost.
So could you just drill a little bit more into where that offset money is coming from? Is it coming from philanthropy that is creating certain synergies with the community college? For example, like one early middle college program that was contemplated in a Promise Zone school that I was visiting was like a fire academy, where in partnership with the community college, the school sort of was marketing, if you will, this fire academy where the students could get this credential. And then, but that was actually funded through a philanthropy. Because the school district determined that the number of students that would go would create a hardship to this already economically distressed district. So I guess I just want to make sure I understand the sort of the level setting, because the school district is in fact paying the community college for that student to take those classes at the community college. Is that correct? So where does the and again, I think early middle college programs are great. It's just I'm trying to sort of uplift the fact that there are school districts already struggling financially that may not be able to sort of navigate what some of these cost disparities might be if they don't have a community college that's willing to sort of work with them on the upfront costs?
Yes, we have some great community college partners that do help with that. And then students who are enrolled in an early middle college are coded differently so that they're eligible for a 5th year of an FTE. So that funding then helps fund the early middle college. And then students who are in a CTE early middle college receive additional funds to support those CTE early middle colleges.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so as part of the financial sort of thought process, the school district knows that that student, because they're coded a certain way, they get a fifth year of funding.
Yes.
So is that where you're saying it may equal out? But that would really only be a situation if the base funding formula is actually high enough to cover all of the fixed costs that the school district already has. I mean, if they're already an economically distressed district, they're still going to face some funding drops, are they not? I mean, it has to be an investment. I mean, in other words, why else would this school district tell me that they were looking for philanthropic dollars to create an early middle college program?
I think there are several models that they could use, and there are additional supports that early middle college students receive, so that may be why they were looking for additional funds. There are multiple early middle college models, and if you'd like, we could provide additional information from our early middle college unit that shows you what those different models are and the way that they're funded.
I guess that's really sort of just to bring it full circle, my concern is that the department is doing a great job of providing the opportunities, but I think if we're not sensitive to some of the financial pressures that individual school districts might face, then maybe we could do more potentially on making it financially more feasible, particularly for economically distressed districts that may not have a community college partner that is necessarily willing to work on some tuition reductions on the front end. So thank you for that. It sounds to me like you're on that, and you're at least you're there to help a school district figure out some of these challenges if the desire is there. The other thing I wanted to ask about is, isn't transportation sort of a big problem? At least I've noticed that in at least the Promise Zone communities that I work in, that are interested in having some of their students partake of community college classes, that oftentimes transportation to the community college, particularly if it's a district that doesn't, they gave up their school buses years ago because of cost problems, that getting the students to those classes is a challenge. So that's another piece that I think it's at least worth thinking about. We may not be able to solve it, but I think we do need to be cognizant of that. And in my observation, oftentimes the school districts that are a bit more affluent and have students that have cars, that where in the afternoon they can get to the community college themselves, makes it a little bit easier, as opposed to a district where students don't have cars and don't have transportation, that it becomes sort of an equitable issue. Are we thinking about those transportation costs to get those kids to the community college? So these are things that I know you're thinking about it, but it oftentimes does come down to money.
And I can comment on early middle college, and I'll talk about it.
Yep.
So for early middle college, there are multiple models. So if transportation is an issue, sometimes the model becomes that the community college courses come to the student's high school and allow them to participate in early middle college there, which then would kind of negate that transportation issue. But again, each model is different and each community looks at that partnership in a different way.
Yes,
And
I
likewise.
have seen that.
Okay.
And likewise,
Network.
full enrollment, there are some models where the district may satellite in that course that a student may be enrolled in, which could offset some of that cost. But there are also, depending on the title status of that particular school district and particular school building, they may be able to utilize Title I funding, Title IV funding to support those additional needs for students with transportation costs.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Ms. Lipton. Senator Bullock.
Well, thank you. Great presentation. I also had similar questions, but sort of in a different way, because also on that question, I was, what is the amount of, do they do the online, but I heard you said the satellite in, so do they do the online courses? How are we marketing this stuff, first of all? Like, how are we marketing in each district? I think one of the slides said like 500 districts have kids that are doing dual enrollment and took so many courses or something like that. So out of those districts, how are we marketing to get those kids involved?
Annually, we do send information to the districts to remind them of the dual enrollment requirement that they offer and make those opportunities available to students. We also communicate that to parents.
Or something that's happening?
It's a mailer, a memo that we send out to districts, and then the districts send information to their eligible students who may qualify for dual enrollment.
So each district, again, probably operating differently on how they market to the students.
How they market it, but information has to be sent. That is a requirement.
I'm stuck on one time. You
Okay.
send me something one time in the mail or get it to me one time.
Annually.
I may forget to talk to my parents. I got something else on my mind and I miss out on the opportunity because we're not feeding them enough. So that's why I use the word marketing. It's gotta be, over and over and over and over and over. I know, there are jingles that stick in our head and we've never used the product,
Yes,
right?
sir.
And then do we follow how many of the students that take the courses once they graduate from high school actually continue on to that school or continue on to post-secondary somewhere?
Yeah, we don't necessarily track that data that I'm aware of, but we can certainly look into that for you.
Okay.
I might also add that one of the things that we do to market these options to students is that communication, the college and high school toolkit. So we're using that in partnership with districts to help show students what their options are when they start looking at their educational development plan or their EDP in the 7th and 8th grade, so that we can keep talking about all of those options again and again as they start to craft their career plans. So they know there's multiple routes to be able to access dual enrollment in early middle college and CTE.
And then this was the number of students that are doing the DE program is higher than the IB program. And so what's the correlation into that dip?
IB is, the district has to make a commitment to actually be a participant in the International Baccalaureate World School Program. So there's an application process that the district has to go through in order to be a recognized IB school. And then the district has to make a commitment to continue annually with certain aspects that align with the IB model.
Just questions of curiosity.
No problem.
Senator Bullock. Ms. Tilley, and then back to Ms. Lipton.
Thank you for the presentation. This is really good. A lot of information, a lot of data. I do want to say transportation is definitely an issue, as you know. I spoke this weekend at the McKinney Foundation, and one of the barriers I mentioned was transportation. And I had someone come up to me afterwards and speak about the transportation issue, and wanting to know what can be done. And I do want to say, I know that we have a lot of funding that we've given for electric school buses to try and help. The state of Michigan has done that. MDE is working on that, and there are still opportunities there for districts to obtain electric school buses. Another thing that I'm seeing, there's data missing for dual enrollment and special education. So, and that's just in comparison to the other data that you have. I don't see the ethnic breakdowns and how many students are enrolled overall in special education. one of the trends that I'm seeing that's very concerning for me is the gap, the differentiation between white students and minority students in CTE, early middle college, advanced placement, and IB. And of course, again, dual enrollment and special education. I can't see the trends because the data isn't present. However, for example, in CTE, you had 80,956 white students enrolled, which is wonderful. But you only have 34,041 minority students enrolled combined. So that's less than half of white students. So and that's a trend that's in every area here. CTE, again, early middle college, AP, IB, that's a huge issue that we have across the state. So I'm seeing that, I know that there are systemic barriers. I already know that. But this data is very telling of that there are a lack of resources in these communities. And we really need to buckle down and focus on how can we help bring resources to these particular communities, whether it's urban, whether it's rural, whatever, the population. We need to meet the needs of these students. We're already so far behind, and we have to do something. So I really want to know if MDE has a plan of how we can better support these populations. Thank you.
So if I may, Dr. Carnell?
Please.
One thing that we worked on over the last couple of years through our CTE office was working with the U of M Youth Policy Research Lab to identify what we call CTE deserts, CTE is the example here, and then opportunity gaps. So where we may have students who aren't enrolling but could be enrolling. So in looking at that, we worked internally with our CTE team, and the legislature and the governor thankfully funded a portion of a project that will help us to expand some of those programs into those deserts if they don't have the resources or they don't have the programs, and then also to look at the opportunity gaps where they have programs but kids aren't enrolling like we think they should. So that work will get underway this year, and we hope to see some changes.
So for the areas where there may be, the opportunity may be present, but enrollment is down, are we working with administrators, superintendents, principals to train them to make sure, or whoever, whatever the person is designated, are we training people to make sure that they are doing the best to get students enrolled in those programs? We're filling up those programs.
Selena, do you want to comment on some of the
Sure.
specifics?
So we worked with Advanced CTE, a national organization, and last year we brought a workshop in February to our administrators to start looking at those opportunity gaps and looking at that data so that they could begin to craft a very regional and local plan for how they needed to increase and improve those numbers. So each district then was looking at that data, and then now we have that historic investment that should help provide some funding for them to do the work that they initially looked at starting.
Okay, awesome. I'm definitely very concerned about this because I know that there are a lot of students that if we don't catch them in time, and make sure that they are well equipped when they graduate with a CTE program, they may never have the life, the quality of life that they can have if we empower them. So,
Thank you, Ms. Tilley. Ms. Lipton.
Thank you. Just a follow-up question to both Senator Bullock and Board Member Tilley. One of the things that I've observed in terms of my work with the Promise Zone communities is that oftentimes the on-ramp to some of these programs that exposed students to their community college classes and really get them excited about post-secondary, is the on-ramp is oftentimes a guidance counselor or a guidance counselor infrastructure that oftentimes is simply not available in economically distressed communities. Oftentimes, I mean, we've talked about this at the table, so I'm not going to repeat it, but we do have many schools that don't have adequate helping professionals, guidance counselors, what have you. So oftentimes, in addition to the letter that gets sent out, which I think was a great idea, I mean, that's kind of a game changer. But oftentimes, the on-ramp really is the guidance counselor. And if the student, and I've heard this from many students. Now, in our Promise Zone communities, we try to provide that through our college access advisors, which we bring in, which I think is great. But for those schools, non-Promise Zone communities, and like I said, we're only in 15 school districts, the guidance counselor becomes the on-ramp. And if the guidance counselor if that position doesn't exist, then that student never hears about these programs realistically, unless it might be through word of mouth from alumni. So just keeping that, in the back of your head. I'm sure you already know about that, but the guidance counselor shortage can have downstream implications, meaning that students simply don't ever know about these opportunities that are there.
Quick,
Senator Bullock.
and so I'm tag teaming. So in our Promise Zone things and other CTE programs, what we're starting to do is inform the kids earlier in age over and over and over. So when they reach the age, and I hope this is where we're headed with that, so that by the time I get to high school, I know I can be a dual enrolled student, blah, 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 yeah.
Dr. Harmala?
Yeah,
And
just
then Mr.
one
Whitman.
more add. The funding that we received this year, the appropriation included funds not only for the CTE deserts and opportunity gaps, but to bring the work down to the middle school level and to increase our marketing campaign. So those are pieces that we know have to happen. And I just want to add one more little celebration, and we could certainly share a specific with you. But some of the work that our CTE team did a year ago was to help our high schools put in what they call apprenticeship walls. And they're absolutely beautiful, artistic, and they identify for students careers in their local area that promote routes to post-secondary credentials. We can share an example of that with you in a board brief or something, so that you can see what that is. But those are additional ways to market without it relying on a guidance counselor. And I had the opportunity to speak with, golly, probably 200 transition coordinators yesterday from Southeast Michigan to promote to them the importance of having the EDP, the transition plan, the personal curriculum all aligned, and to start that work earlier than the age of 16, which under special ed law is the requirement. Start by 16, but we know it makes more sense to start earlier. So promoting that to our staff around the state and helping them to see how to do that. So thank you for those thoughts.
Thank you, Dr. Harmala, Mr. McMillan, and then Dr. Pugh.
Yeah, quickly, dual enrollment, is that available to students in private schools or homeschool?
They would need to reach out to the local school district to help facilitate that.
Could be.
Could be.
And then the AP, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the College Board determines the AP tests. Is that right?
The College Board administers the AP exam.
And that's a national organization. It's not here in Michigan.
It is a national organization.
Okay. And so therefore, and there's AP classes that would go over the material that's going to be on the AP test in our public schools. So we would really essentially have no input into the standards or what is going to be taught. It'll be taught whatever the AP College Board, this independent body, decides. Is that right? As far as the content of it, the content of the class is really going to be focused around the test, isn't it? I mean, to make sure that they're going to do well on the test.
It's not, the contents of the course are not solely focused around the exam. The teachers who teach AP classes are trained in that particular content and subject area. They do look for alignment with the Michigan standards in terms of what is being covered in that course to make sure that one is not absent of the other. It's more a collective, as well as trying to ready the student for participation in that AP exam, should they choose to take it. It should be noted that participation in the AP exam is not required that you take an AP course.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Dr. Pugh.
There was recently a report that discussed graduation. Well, we hear a lot. Let me go back. We hear a lot about graduates and them not being prepared to graduate. So we've celebrated record number of graduation rates, record number of AP enrollees, and thinking about these performance on the exams with scores of 3, 4, or 5, how do we have that conversation of graduates? So increased number of increased graduation rates, increased number of those completing AP exams, and then the performance let me go back, completing AP coursework, but then the performance on the performance scores. Can you speak to that? Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I kind of mumbled that around. So when students score on their AP exam scores of 3, 4, 5, just explain what that means again.
If they score a 3, 4, or 5, they may be eligible to receive college credit. And the colleges in the state and across the nation, but look at what that means for their particular intake process. So a 3 at one college may be this credit, or it may waive that. A 4 at another college may be that. We particularly, we know that students scoring the 3, 4, or 5 may be eligible, and that's what we say to students. You may be eligible to receive those courses, but they would need to sit down with that particular college intake counselor to determine what that score means as it relates to that particular course and their intended course of study at that particular institution.
So let me put it this way. Those two pieces of data, increased graduation rates, increased students who are completing AP coursework, and I guess 3 pieces of data, but those who are completing the exams and scoring 3, 4, or 5, looks like we're not only heading in the right direction for graduates, but graduates who are well prepared for that next level. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
No, I mumbled that up, so I get it. So thank you for that clarification. And then just you've mentioned apprenticeships a little bit, and I remember some years ago, Dr. Rice and I were in Saginaw about celebrating an apprenticeship program that was coming on board. Where else have we gone with those apprenticeship programs? Because that was pretty much a pilot at that time. And have we done more in this space and in this area that you can speak to?
I believe, was that the educator
That was the
apprenticeships?
educator, yes.
So overall, we're looking at trying to increase apprenticeship opportunities for every profession. So we have worked with our partners in Leo in that apprenticeship division, and then we've also been working with some of our folks out in industry to increase those opportunities. I would have to look and see where we were with that education initiative, because we've been looking at apprenticeships all across the board. So I could provide an update on that for you later.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pugh. Ms. Snyder.
So I'm just looking at the concept of really closing the gap that multiple people have talked about at the table here. In congratulating the students that have, been able to be successful in the AP programming, I think that there's really a hats off to the College Board itself, which rates the standards for these classes, right? That's something to consider. The Department of Education does not rate the standards for these classes. The State Board of Education does not develop the standards for AP classes. And so the students that are in those classes and experiencing success as a result of the rigor of those standards, I think the process needs to be recognized as for what it is. So I wonder about closing the gap for those students that don't have access to those classes, asking the questions of why, and maybe potentially going to the College Board and looking at what standards before the AP classes are offered should look like for our students, so that they do have access to it and they're ready for it and they can tackle it. And they have the confidence to say, I'm ready for this and I should do this. Because there's a disconnect with the standards that we currently have and the reality that the success that is being experienced is really a reflection of the students, the teachers, and the actual standards that are developed by the College Board.
Dr.
That would just
Chapman, you
be
want to
my
talk about
suggestion.
the letters again? The letters that we send out to let students that know they have the potential.
Sure, thank you, Dr. Carnell. So yes, the AP Potential Letter is not only a specific reach or marketing, if you will, for AP courses. We do, right in the letter, encourage our students that are personally receiving that letter to know that there are additional opportunities, including dual enrollment, and if their school has the IB Baccalaureate program, we encourage that as well, along with early middle college. In addition to the AP potential letter being sent directly to the student and their parent or caregiver, we also send a memorandum to every superintendent across the state, encouraging them to know that the letter will be issued and to make sure that they, along with their academic support team and staff, are clear and have in place a means of marketing and encouraging students of all student groups that the opportunity is available for those expanded learning opportunities.
Ms. Snyder?
I mean, I would just repeat that, again, in closing the gap with the students that need to have that confidence well before they're notified of the opportunity. The standards that are written by the College Board for AP courses might actually influence the standards that we should have before they're notified of the opportunity. And I think that would really help to encourage confidence so that they can experience the success of those classes.
Duly noted, thank you.
The students get the letter.
The letter has traditionally been issued late fall, early winter, and that is intentional. Intentional because it's shortly thereafter that academic support staff, including guidance counselors, are having those individual conversations and group conversations going into classes or whatever the process is in a local education agency to share with students for the upcoming school year what is available. So the letter is issued, but then there are mechanisms in place within the local district to reemphasize that the opportunity is available as well.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman.
You're welcome.
Thank you to our presenters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next item on today's agenda is item C, a presentation on literacy updates, Public Act 146, 147, Section 35M and 35N. Today's presentation will provide this literacy update and the ways that the team is working to help improve early literacy achievement. This presentation will include updates on our literacy and dyslexia law related to high-quality literacy instructional materials and the grant associated with that, and the Reading Excellence and Advancing District Innovation Grant. The district, we also are welcoming a district with us today who will spotlight their work on letters implementation. You've heard us talk about letters a lot, and we brought to the table a district that is actually using letters after being trained in letters. And that school district is Waterford Schools. So we welcome our presenters. Again, Dr. Chapman. We have Dr. Jen Saylor, the Assistant Director for the Office of Educational Support, Ms. Denisha Ross-Smith from the same office, but she's part of the Literacy Unit, And Lauren Wiseman is the K through 8 literacy consultant at Waterford School District. And Mr. Darren Holly, right? Assistant Superintendent for pre-K instruction at Waterford School District. Also present in the room is Sandy Younger, literacy consultant, and Kelly Flamingo, raise your hand, Flaminio, part of the literacy unit. So welcome to our presenters, and thank you for being here.
Thank you, Dr. Carnell, and greetings again, Dr. Carnell and board members. Today, we have a presentation on literacy updates from the Office of Educational Supports, and specifically our literacy unit. Um, Here we see again the Michigan Top 10 Strategic Education Plan, which outlines our 8 goals. We want to emphasize today that when implemented successfully, support, learning, and impact is the outcome for learners across our state. Taking a look at and emphasizing today Goal 2, improve early literacy achievement. It is a key goal in helping us realize our vision for all Michigan learners, that they will have an inspiring, engaging learning environment which fosters creative and critical thinkers who believe in and can live into the fullest of their potential based on this particular goal. Over the past year, the staff in the Office of the Educational Supports Literacy Unit has intentionally focused its work on Goal 2 by providing technical assistance and professional growth opportunities for Michigan students, educators, including teachers and leaders, to increase, enhance, and support their readiness and ability to develop and maintain academic learning spaces and activities that focus on addressing the comprehensive literacy needs of our youngest learners. Our goal today is to provide you board with an update on our current statewide efforts to support and move Michigan's Strategic Education Plan Goal 2, with a spotlight today on the department's work on PA 146 of 2024, Section 35M, and Section 35 in grants, advancing the identification and utilization of high-quality literacy instructional materials, and research teacher practices rooted in the science of reading. And so with that, we will now, through this overview, want to emphasize that we will share updates as just stated, the K-12 literacy and dyslexia laws, specifically the request for submissions, process, and technical assistance. Secondly, the high-quality literacy materials aligned to the Section 35M grant, and the Reading Excellence and Advancing District, or READ, Section 35N grant. We will conclude the presentation with a district spotlight on letters implementation from our guests today, from the Waterford School District. And now our literacy manager, Ms. Denisha Ross Smith, will share the next segment of our presentation.
Thank you, Dr. Chapman. Good morning, Dr. Carnell. Good morning, board. It's good to be here with you again. This slide is not foreign to you, it's familiar to you. I just want to bring your attention to the call out. We are here, we are here. We are in the October through December phase of implementation for the K-12 literacy and dyslexia law, as well as our high-quality instructional materials grant. And we're here, this is our preparation space. You'll notice there are no due dates in this segment of the year, but we are preparing for January. So if you go to the next slide, we all remember that the department is required to provide a list of valid and reliable K through 3 assessments. We'll have screeners and progress monitoring assessments, as well as a Tier 1, evidence-based Tier 1 elementary curricula list. And so I want to give you an update on what you'll see from those lists in January of 2026. In preparation for this due date that we're very excited about, the department has conducted a request for submission process. And that process began on September 17th, 2025. It concluded on October 6th, 2025. And you will notice that we're communicating on this slide the submissions that we received. We received 19 submissions for Tier 1 evidence-based elementary reading curriculum. We also received 9 submissions for K through 3rd grade assessments, and we received 8 submissions for 4th through 12th grade assessments. And I think it's important to share what we received so that when you see the final list, you'll understand how we started, if the list is not quite to some people's expectation as far as quantity. MDE, in addition to the list that we just spoke about and referenced on the previous slide, we're also responsible for providing technical assistance and professional learning to educators and leaders in the field. We've been very active with the My MTSS TA Center in providing professional learning around the topics that you see on the slide: characteristics of dyslexia, the science of reading, the reading brain, and structured literacy instruction. You'll also see in the coming months more PD from our unit that will include how districts can select curriculum, how they should go about selecting assessments, and you'll see trainings as far as the individual reading improvement plans. So that's to come. And I will turn it over to Dr. Jennifer Saylor, and she'll talk a little bit more about the literacy grants that are available to help implement Public Act 146.
Thanks, Ms. Rell-Smith, and good morning, Dr. Carnell and members of the board. Circling back with an update from previous board presentations, the 35M High Quality Literacy Materials Grant has gained a lot of momentum over the course of the past year. This $87 million formula grant has provided for a Committee for Literacy Achievement to critically evaluate literacy series and materials, professional development, and tools or services, which has resulted in rankings lists that can be found on the department's Committee for Literacy Achievement High Quality Literacy Materials Grants webpage. To date, the Literacy Unit has received and approved 561 applications for 35M funding, representing 1,093,775 students, meaning the impact of this grant is reaching 77% of Michigan's student population. Over $52 million of the $87 million in total grant funding has been distributed for materials and professional learning for these 561 districts to date, and districts are submitting budget plans on a rolling basis with timelines established for funding to be paid in monthly state aid payments. It's important to note that there are some district reporting requirements that accompany this grant funding. As a condition to receive funding, districts and ISDs agree to provide information on the early literacy series and other items used for previous and current school years twice a year on or before March 31st and August 1st. The first reporting deadline is March 31st, 2026. And circling back to an update on 35N, the Reading Excellence and Advancing District, or READ, Innovation Grant, with a brief refresher on the structure of this $10 million competitive grant. Like 35M, the 35N also required the MDE to identify a literacy commission to establish categories, structure, and awardees for the competition. The focus of this competition is on initiatives grounded in the science of reading, with the ultimate goal of increasing student literacy achievement. This competitive grant included an initial application phase and upcoming rounds of competition, with the winning districts in each category receiving $500,000 in funding. During the application process, the department received 115 applications, which were reviewed by the Committee for Literacy Achievement. Of these 115 applications, the department identified 39 applications to advance to the next phase of the competition, with funds requested and received by districts ranging from $107,450 to $187,500. On a periodic basis determined by the department, for each eligible category in which a district may compete, The eligible districts must measure and report to the department growth in student literacy scores among students targeted by the Innovative Literacy Initiative. The department is requiring districts to report twice a year in January and in June. The reports mentioned on the previous slide will serve two purposes. In January, awardees will ensure implementation and data collection have started and can be successfully reported to the MDE. In June, districts will report growth in student literacy scores within the student groups served by the Innovative Literacy Initiative. And I'll now turn the presentation back over to Mrs. Rawls-Smith to share an update on another literacy grant funding opportunity.
Thank you, Dr. Saylor. In addition to the high-quality instructional materials grant that you heard Dr. Saylor speak about and the Read Innovation Grant, we also offer funding for letters, which we talk about often at this table. As of October 30th, you can see on the screen, we have 5,458 graduates of letters. Those individuals completed all 8 units of the program. In addition to that, we have 6,000, a little over 6,000 educators that are currently working through the Letters platform. And we always sit here and we say we hear wonderful things about letters and we hear that people enjoy the content and they're learning so much. But today, we are privileged to have Waterford here to tell their story. So I would like to give them space now to share. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity to share our story, our letters journey. The 35J funding, which really allowed this, hit us at the right time in the right place. But before I start, we've got Lauren Wiseman here, and we do have our CIA team, our Curriculum Instruction and Assessment team with us today. We've got Chris Saporin, Megan Macy, Becky Matthews, Jessica Ristich, and Devin McKee, who's not with us, but she's part of this team. We are transforming the perception of the CIA single-handedly. But I just wanted to shout that out because this really took a partnership, not just within our own team, but a lot of folks that we'll point out today. So with that, start with Lauren.
So as we tell our letters learning story with you today, we really wanted to start with our literacy roadmap, because we feel that's important for you to understand where we've been and how different that is from where we are today in 2025. So pre-pandemic, we in Waterford were implementing a balanced literacy approach, utilizing Lucy Calkins' units of study and the MESA units of study. And that happened for almost 2 decades. Until the pandemic hit in 2020 and changed things all across the world, specifically in education. And our students had great needs, academically, socially, and emotionally. But the one silver lining out of all the hardships that came out of that time for us in Waterford was the ESSER funding. We used that as an opportunity to invest in our curriculum materials. We knew, looking at our data and serving our students, that they needed something different. They needed something more to support their literacy instruction. So at that time, we purchased HMH Into Reading, and that is a structured literacy approach to instruction, and it is grounded in the science of reading. We began that in 2021, and shortly after, Letters was offered free through the state, and a group of our teaching and learning department, as well as a small group of teachers and reading interventionists, were the early adopters of Letters learning. We knew right away that it was significant. It was exactly what our teachers needed. We were being challenged ourselves with our previous beliefs and practices as prior classroom teachers before our roles as coaches and consultants. But we were unsure how we were going to take that widely to all of our classrooms across all 9 elementary buildings. It was a true gift. In 2024, when 35J grant became available, we seized that opportunity, we applied, we were accepted, and we selected Letters right away, knowing that it was going to be the change agent to supporting teachers and knowing more about the science of reading, as well as structured literacy and how to better support their students utilizing the new curricular literacy resources that we had selected in 2021.
So before you go into this next part, we call it deep shift in our district. We had mindset shifting folks that had been deeply engaged in balanced literacy in the Calkins units, and it really and especially with our own internal team, it really confronted some really deep-seated practices and values that there was crying, there was gnashing of teeth, maybe even some swearing here and there, but in the end, we knew we needed something different, and with the curriculum shifts, we've had demographic shifts, we've had teacher turnover shifts, but despite all of this, we knew we needed something different.
So why letters? Letters was aligned with the grant requirements, and it also was a perfect alignment with our Houghton Mifflin Harcourt Into Reading resources. At every turn, as early adopters and engaging in the letters learning ourselves as leaders, we could put our finger on precisely where the components, the language, the routines that we were learning in letters lived within our literacy resource. And we wanted that for all of our teachers. And perfectly enough, it was free through the state of Michigan, so we didn't have to consider where would that funding come from. When we were starting with letters, we were struggling with, this is really important, this is great, our teachers need this professional learning and support to move themselves through that emotional space, transitioning from balanced literacy to structured literacy and knowing more about the science of reading. But it was going to take a great deal of time as well as money for pull-out professional learning to provide all of our teachers across all 9 buildings with that. So letters was a great opportunity where we could get everyone on board and engaged in the learning at the same time. And we already had transformational testimonies from those early adopters as well that was spreading some fear of missing out with some of their colleagues in our buildings.
Yeah, and we had teachers that were doing the thing in the classrooms, but we wanted to make that connection with what they were doing, with why they were doing it, and letters really offers that bridge for us. There were a lot of barriers in the way, and just having the funding available did not make it an easy road. We knew right away, we kind of sat down and said, what is going to get in the way with this? There's time, it's money, we're asking a lot. We had just transformed all of our curriculum materials within the last 4 years. Our teachers were at their wits' end. So we were fortunate with some of these barriers that we knew we needed to have our partnership with the union right away. And we see ourselves in Waterford as a blue-collar, kind of hardworking, gritty community, and we kind of took advantage of Dan Campbell a little bit because although I'm not Dan Campbell and nobody can be, just his spirit of grittiness and the idea that he's unapologetic about going for it on 4th down, regardless of the outcome, we had that same kind of sense that this is our opportunity. We cannot pass this by. We need to go for it, and that's how we engaged in reaching out with our various stakeholders. So with the union, we were fortunate again. Mary Crate, who was our union district leader, was involved in letters before we had a grant opportunity for this. So she was one of our literacy consultants, and we had kind of prepared this entire presentation to sell her because we knew it was going to be a tough sell. And almost immediately she said, "We're in. We are in." And with that, we decided that we needed to really shift a lot of our our PD for the next 2 years to focus in on literacy and trying to carve out time that is already allocated towards teachers so that we're honoring their time and also paying for the extra time that this is going to cost or cause them and their families. So because letters was free through the state, we were allowed to utilize that 35J funding, fully towards the stipends, and that was really the game changer. Not everybody was still real thrilled about it because their plates were already full, but that certainly presented a carrot and really removed some of those barriers. The next was really, our math consultant, our science consultant, and all of our other areas that needed work as well, we all kind of had to agree that this had to be the focus for the year. So they had to be very creative in trying to find PD opportunities to push into buildings, work at elbow with staff. But really, that was, that it took a group effort, and that's why they're all here today.
So one of the 35J grant requirements was 100% participation. And at first, we took pause with that, and then again, it was we go for it. All means all. So we have 204 staff members collectively that either have completed letters learning and training or are currently in a cohort ranging from the earliest cohorts, cohort 3, to the cohort that just launched this fall, cohort 11. This includes classroom teachers, special education teachers, our specialized classroom teachers of students with cognitive impairments, emotional impairments, students with autism, reading interventionists, coaches, consultants, our special education consultants, our ELD consultants and coordinators, as well as each of our 9 elementary principals engaged in letters learning.
And I dare say we have the highest concentration of highly skilled reading teachers in the galaxy, probably.
We'd like to share with you, specific to the systems that we built and the success that we are feeling now in year 2 of our letters journey with everyone, 3 C's that we feel are our keys to success. That being collaboration, communication, as well as connections. So the first, collaboration, we really want to ensure that we thank and spotlight our partnerships that we've had both with Lexia as well as MDE. Jamie Bouchel has been our letters point from day 1, specifically speaking to cohort 8, which had 155 of our Waterford staff members that entered in year 1 of letters last fall. She was helping us answer our questions as leaders in those facilitating this implementation, as well as teachers' questions. She was also carving out live letters training sessions for Waterford teachers exclusively on our PD days, because those live letters trainings typically happen in the evening or on Saturdays, which can often be difficult for teachers to balance with their home and family. So those were huge wins that we were afforded through our partnership with Lexia, as well as Lauren Holland and Amy Jones, who are silver partnership. We have that as well. That was the one other small thing in addition to stipends, that 35J we purchased to ensure that we could monitor teachers' participation and completion of their letters learning, as well as support them if they needed any pacing support or understanding support throughout the program. But they are also a fantastic support to us as leaders in creating and refining and strengthening our systems that we had in place. We also really want to thank Kelly Flaminio, who also since day 1 has helped to remove barriers. When we heard that initially we would need each of our 155 staff members to individually register for letters, we had a small panic attack about what that would take and ensuring that everyone went on by themselves and ensured they registered. And Kelly came back as a problem solver and said, we got this. We've got you. How about we have a shared spreadsheet for registration? So we were able to upload everyone's name, PIC number, email address seamlessly, and she registered them that way and sent out materials, which was a huge help in removing a barrier for one of our very first steps as we engaged in letters. Our second C, communication. Again, when we're thinking about 204 staff members engaging in letters, there were lots of different moving parts and pieces, cohorts that had different pacing guides. They were in different units. We had different deadlines. And when we had the stipends in place, we needed to ensure, we wanted to support so that everyone received their stipend at the end of the year. And then again this fall for year 2, that everyone was on pace. So monthly newsletters came out for myself at the district level to just continue to update in small bite-sized chunks of what's upcoming, what dates we had contractually to engage in this learning, what were some important reminders connected to pacing or their live letters training, as well as any resources that we could provide them to connect their letters learning to their into-reading program and literacy instruction as a part of their Tier 1. We also had our reading interventionists who were part of those early adopters in cohorts 3 and 4. as our point people in each of our 9 buildings. So as we had that large cohort 8 and following cohorts with new teachers that came into Waterford mid-year or at the start of this year, they were there to answer their questions and support their initial sign-in in helping them to feel successful in getting started. Another communication piece, quarterly last year, and again, we've had one so far this year. We come together in each of our 9 buildings in person doing our early release during our professional learning community time, led by our reading interventionist, and teachers come together to share what they've learned specifically in letters and how they're making connections to their practice with students in action, that application component, and then also making essential connections to our into reading curriculum. And then our last group.
our principals, they are elementary principals. They've been great partners in this work. They've also been engaged in the letters, the administrative training. Some have taken the full letters training as well. But keeping them up to date with what is next, again, as we are designating some PLC times and staff meeting times to this letters learning, we wanted to make sure that they weren't accidentally sneaking some things in, because we really wanted to honor the time and carve that time out for our folks. And again, it allowed them to engage in ensuring that their teachers were on pace, identifying any barriers that were in place, and connecting any staff that had issues with our CAA folks.
Our final C is connection. We wanted to be very clear along their learning path with letters where that letters learning lived within our literacy resources. We did not want them to see this as something separate, something different, something new they would have to do in addition to interreading. We wanted to build those intentional connections for them to truly put our finger on. We learned this in Unit 3 about phonics, the specific routine. Here's where that lives in our curriculum, and let's be sure to use this explicit language when we are delivering that to students. We also really activated all of our job-embedded professional learning structures, such as coaching cycles throughout all of last year and even the beginning of this year, working alongside teachers, specifically in their Tier 1 literacy instruction, embedding and layering and enhancing that with their letters learning. We then took those coaching cycle teachers that we've worked with in teams, and we kind of spread our feeders out even more by hosting learning labs. So the teachers we coached, we then brought in an additional group of teachers, 10, 12 of them, to see that lesson, those lessons in action. And then we had opportunities to debrief for those teachers to ask questions, make connections back to their own practice, and really fuel and inspire them to go back and to do that with their students in their classrooms.
So what? I mean, none of this really matters. Oh, no, we're not there yet. Sorry, this is the best part.
I was very
We had to carve
excited
out a
about the
minute.
data, but this we have to ensure you see. This is a 60-second clip of Alyssa Korzum, a first grade teacher at Haviland Elementary, as she is implementing an interreading foundational skills lesson. This foundational skills lesson is specifically working in service of Scarborough's reading rope, the word recognition strands, specifically phonological awareness, phonics, and sight word recognition. You'll hear her speak to us in the camera about how she is enhancing her literacy instruction with her letters learning.
I am Alyssa Korzum. I teach first grade at Haviland Elementary. The lesson that you are seeing is a foundational skills lesson within our HMH curriculum, and there are components of our letters training that you will see in this lesson. So the kids are using mirrors to help them identify the letter sounds that they are saying, so they're able to look at what shape their mouth is making, where their teeth are, the position of their tongue, to help them identify those specific sounds. They are also using a poppet tool to help them segment and blend to help them spell these words. And we also use our Promethean board as an interactive poppet, and the kids can come on up and also write the sounds in our sound boxes to help them spell.
Thank you for our communication department. She puts together these classroom 60s to highlight some practices in our district. we didn't have to recreate this. We already had it in the vault. So thank you for that. So, but again, so what? We'll get back to this. So what if this doesn't show up in achievement and growth, then it just is a feel-good thing. And we want more than that. We expect more than that. So one of the things that, I've been in our district for a long time, and I'm kind of a data geek. And as we watched our data over the years, it was pretty frustrating to see we had pockets of greatness, pockets of great growth, but we had not seen some consistent, growth from our district. And, that was prior to our shifts. But, after our shifts, we have seen consistent growth for 3 straight years. Every building, every grade level has shown consistent growth in our NWEA, which we take stock in because that is a nationally normed assessment for us, and it allows us to really see where we stack up. And because we hadn't seen that before, we knew we were on the right track. And that was really a huge selling point for our teachers that were really struggling and saying, we don't believe in this. The science of reading, we'll do it, but, we don't really believe in it. And the moment that we saw that data shift so significantly across the district, we kind of had them. It was hard to ignore. So, but again, growth is great. If it doesn't start showing up in achievement on M-STEP, what are we doing? So we have by no means arrived, and we're not saying that we have, but again, we're seeing some significant movement there. 6 of 9 of our elementaries are higher than the state average this year. On the last assessment, 6 of 9 are trending up. And we were just notified that Haviland Elementary is one of 6 schools in Oakland County that has had 3 significant years of increased achievement in the top 3%. So that's really something to be proud of. And we have, we're not an extremely affluent community. We have very hardworking blue collar kind of families, and we've had a lot of teacher turnover, just like everybody. We have had lots of shifts in student behaviors and parent behaviors since COVID. We have a higher poverty level than normal. So we're not saying that, there are still a lot of things that make this work very difficult and challenging, but we are seeing great movement, and we are very proud of that. In 4th grade, 5 of 9 buildings are higher than the state, 4 of 9 are trending up. And, I feel like we feel like not only the NWA growth, but the movement and achievement that we are ready to have that breakthrough, and are excited to see where this takes us. So with that, what questions might you have?
Thank you, presenter. Board members, any questions? Then Ms. Lipton.
I just want to say congratulations on being the blueprint of what it looks like to have local success to implement letters training. When laws are written, like the laws that were written, that really for good reasons and with resources that are meant to get to local school districts so that you can do the exact work that you've done and be an example to the rest of the state for here's how we did it, I think it's a huge accomplishment at a time when we really have needed to rebuild literacy in the state of Michigan. You will be at the forefront of what it looks like to improve the 44% NWEA reading literacy that we have nationally. So that's a huge professional accomplishment. Not to be negative, I just want to highlight a few things too about this process that will be helpful for other districts moving forward and for the department. I think this is a true example of what the role of the department is to assist local districts in being in compliance with laws. Oftentimes we see a major overstep in how they engage within their roles and responsibilities, but this is an excellent example of how we need them to engage with local districts and be a support. So I hope that, the blueprint that you've just shared with us and articulated in detail is written down for others to be able to see. Thank you.
Snyder, and at some point we can talk about the overstep. Would love to hear more about it. Ms. Lipton.
Thank you so much. I mean, kudos to your district, kudos to the department. Just really, this is really, you're doing transformational work. And what I loved, the fact is that you acknowledged how hard it is. That I think sometimes policymakers sort of, they take the magic wand approach and think that, okay, well, another state is doing this, or, someone else is doing this, so we're just going to wave our magic wand. And they don't really necessarily understand or empathetic in terms of, how hard the change is. And you really, really spoke to that, and I really, really appreciate that. How difficult it is for teachers who were trained a certain way to now be told, that you got to shift in a major way, and that's really traumatic. So I really appreciate that you spoke to that. I'm really curious because of really how transformational this effort has been in your district. Is there some thought to in other words, because of the time that it takes for an existing already hired teacher to invest in this, and clearly you cajoled and you incentivized so that all the teachers, the administrators, everyone would buy in. But is there some thought that at some point we might come to a time where teachers coming out of their preparation programs might already sort of almost like an AP for letters? Like, in other words, they're taking it earlier so that when they hire in, they don't necessarily then have to invest in this professional learning. I would think that would be something that you guys are thinking about, but I'm just curious to know.
Yeah, I would say absolutely. If they had this foundation, that would be great. I think, sometimes when you learn something outside of the context of actually doing it, there isn't as much of a connection. But having a foundation in letters would be hugely beneficial to not only districts that are receiving newer teachers, but also the students that they serve.
Mr. Saylor?
And I can add, Ms. Lipton, that we talk a lot about PA 146, which is the practitioners in the classroom work, but PA 147 does address what you're talking about. So it's institutes of higher education, addressing structured literacy and all the components. So teachers come prepared in advance of their degree.
So then the PD maybe could be more compatible with, real life learning as opposed to necessarily foundational time, which is, I mean, there's a lot, it's putting a lot on a teacher's plate. So that's really interesting. I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Robinson and then Mr. McMillan.
So thank you. This is great information. You have a 100% participation rate. Could you talk to us about how special area teachers are involved in that training? Because I'm assuming that means your music, art, PE, library folks are all doing the letters training as well.
So that is the one group that we selected, not letters. We've selected the literacy essentials, the Michigan Literacy Essentials. And we are engaging them first last year with vocabulary. We thought that was a way across each of their areas of expertise, from art to music to physical education, as well as Spanish, that they all would have a common ground there. So they spent all last year learning about the vocabulary essential and making connections to their practice in planning together. Because they're spread out across all of our 9 buildings, they had opportunities to come together during our professional learning and plan for what that vocabulary instruction would look like in their area of specialty.
So I don't mean this, sorry, I don't mean this as a critique of what you're doing, but as a music teacher and a music teacher educator, I would like to see music teachers and art teachers and phys ed teachers considered as teachers in the building. And the 100% kind of doesn't really suggest that.
There is that was that flexibility. I absolutely honor what you're saying, and we did tell Encore teachers in the beginning that they could choose to do letters, but they also knew what that was going to entail outside of the day as well.
Okay.
We said, or this is another professional learning series that meets the science of reading expectations in the grant. And we didn't have anyone at that time that selected letters, but I do really appreciate you putting that into the room.
Thanks.
Because we do see them as equal educators and critical components in our partnership and work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Robinson. Mr. McMillan.
Yeah, I just, whenever I hear the phrase or the terms of Lucy Calkins, I need to just mention, you guys had it for like 20 years, is it 2000 to 2019? And it was a debacle. And back then, the quote-unquote experts said that this was research-based. I was among many who were fighting it and saying phonics in the 90s, 2000s. We were ridiculed. Come on, you got to trust the science. You got to trust the research. The experts are all agree. So let's just keep that in mind, especially when people are attacking, citizens for doing their own research and, are not exactly buying the quote-unquote research-based ways that experts claim. And also, from what I understand, Troy, the school district of Troy is still using Lucy Calkins. So that's concerning, and maybe there's others. I'd love to know who's still using this flawed. I think it's really largely responsible, or at least significantly responsible for the reading and literacy debacle that we have in our country for the last 20 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McMillan. Any other board members? Ms. Tilley. And
Thank
Dr.
you so
Pugh.
much for the presentation. Really appreciate you guys and the work that you're doing. One of the things when you talked about having all of the teachers on board, one of the things that I immediately thought about was the turnover, and you ended up speaking about that. Can you talk more about that? I think other districts that want to also participate need to know about that part of it as well. How has the turnover rate affected you? What are you doing to try to keep teachers, teacher retention? And then also, there was one other point that I wanted, and I can't think of it right now, but I'll let you go ahead.
I can start with, we value our teachers and their time, and this work is very challenging, and teaching is not for everybody. And it's become harder and harder to find teachers, when we have applications, but I think we can't control everything that's outside of our boundaries. We try to focus on valuing them, giving them the tools that they need to be successful in the classroom, and trying to honor their time by building as much of this within their contractual day, and then having a 35J funding to do this. We would like 35JW Waterford designation so that we can continue this moving forward, because that is one of the challenges. We've started all of this work and would love to continue it. Realistically, as long as it's offered free through the state, we are highly going to encourage it. I just don't know as though we're not going to have the same traction without that carrot to honor that time. So
That was going to be my other question about a new cohort of
Yes.
teachers starting.
And we have several cohorts. So as teachers come into the district, whether they're retiring mid-year or for whatever reason they're leaving the districts, as people come in, we are enrolling them in a cohort. But this is the second year of that funding, and
Yeah, the funding had to be spent by September 30th. So we prepaid out the stipends, and we are monitoring using our online Lexia dashboard to ensure that they complete all components of their training. By the fall of next year, we have cohorts that are completing Unit 8 into next fall. And with that, if they don't complete, they will have to return their stipend. But we do have one new staff member who actually joined us this week. And we will be registering her for cohort 12. Highly encouraging that she continues this learning outside of the school day as everyone else is, but we can't require that of her. But she will be also utilizing the district contractual time that is being allocated for the remainder of this year to engage in as much of the letters learning as she can.
35 JW.
Thank you. Anything else, Ms. Tilly?
Do we know if letters funding is going to continue? Or how long it's funded for?
Letters was funded for fiscal year 26, so it is funded, but they were able to use 35J funds to pay out a stipend. So that's the difference you're hearing in the conversation today.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Tilly. Dr. Pugh.
Thank you, Darren and Lauren, for sharing with us and helping us to see that there is light at the end of the tunnel. And as Board Member Lipton mentioned, also the realities that it takes time. And my questions are more so for you, Denisha, or staff. Just if you could summarize for us, because PA 146 and PA 147 should be fully implemented by 2026, right?
2027, 28.
Right, I'm sorry. What pieces, if you could just in summary, like walk us through where you were, like what pieces are pretty much completed and what pieces are we still looking to complete?
We can, I think she's going to go back to the timeline, but as she's marching back to the timeline, the pieces that you see in progress are around technical assistance. We have completed, but we'll do every year, the parent letter that the department is required to send to families of third graders who are not proficient and their score is not proficient on MSTEP. So you'll see some of those things are already happening and will continue. In January will be the due date for the list that we spoke about today, the assessment list and the curricula list. And then to come, you'll see additional TA or technical assistance and professional learning around the components of PA 146. So that's why I mentioned IRIPS. You'll see that coming in the future. We need to provide IRIP training for teachers before 27, 28. So in the fall of 27 is when it's technically due. So that's what you'll see coming. The lists are pretty big to everyone because they have to adopt. The districts must adopt from the assessment list by the 27, 28 school year and are expected to implement that year. So that is kind of like the big deal with January. They'll have kind of a year, maybe like 6 months really, to start really choosing assessments and then adopting them. But those are the things that are to come. The professional learning is that's what you'll see from us. Then the next set of requirements are really district level. So you'll see district implementing the requirements that are in the law. And then Dr. Saylor mentioned earlier about the institutions of higher education. They also have that same due date, that 27, 28 to implement. So you will begin to see educators graduating from university with the same skill set that the educators in Waterford have around structured literacy, the science of reading, understanding the reading brain. And our friends, Sean Koki and Alam Bazi, have come to the table before, but they are really doing the massive work of bringing universities along so that they can continue to offer educator certifications. So.
And if I can jump in,
Yes.
Hats off to the literacy team who was ahead of the game when the law was implemented or signed, because we already had a dyslexia handbook, and the team went around and are talking to districts about what does it look like to look for the characteristics of dyslexia.
Thank you.
I appreciate, and going back to the trainings for letters, if we were to get mandatory letters training, how many more would be in that pipeline? I know Board Member Tilly was.
So this is an
spitting out those
interesting
numbers.
number that we've talked about a little bit. It's about 38,000 teachers that were identified through the data that's available online. So my school data, the rep data, that's about 38,000 teachers. But then you have your administrators, your coaches. So if we're considering letters for the professional learning that's outlined in PA 146, a number that we've seen is about 66,000 as of last week. But that number is pretty shaky because you're constantly having educators come into districts. So it will shift a little bit.
And that's K through?
That would be K through 5, yes. Thank you for helping me to clarify that. Yeah. That would be K through 5, but yeah, around about 38,000 elementary teachers, and then give or take a few more thousand for your administrators, your instructional coaches. One thing I should say is the Committee for Literacy Achievement, when they were reviewing the literacy submissions, we created a professional learning list. So even without letters, there are professional learning opportunities that the department has published and educators can take advantage of that are aligned with the law, that are aligned with the science of reading and structured literacy. So,
thank you. Anything else?
Thank you for this presentation. Thank you for the reality of what's going on and what is to be. And I guess as we continue to monitor our literacy rates across the state, the responses that we're still implementing, and that it takes time. Okay.
It's our goal to bring a district each time the literacy team comes up so you can see the implementation of the work. So thank you very much, presenters. Great job.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Waterford. Today's agenda is item P, the presentation of Michigan Teacher of the Year. We welcome Mr. Corey Rosser, 2025-26 Michigan Teacher of the Year, Social Studies teacher at Quest High School in North Branch Area Schools, and Ms. Sarah Kresnick, Region 3 Regional Teacher of the Year, elementary teacher at Discovery Elementary School in Kentwood Public Schools. So welcome, presenters.
Thanks again for the opportunity to present with you all. As you guys know, the role of Michigan Teacher of the Year is a very, very busy schedule. And probably my favorite thing that I get to do is I get to go visit all the regional teachers and see a lot of the amazing things going on in their district. And so just this last Friday, I actually got a chance to go to Kentwood Public Schools and check out some of the things Sarah's doing. And it's just so interesting to see the way everybody gets things done. Every building you walk into has a totally different culture. And as soon as you walk into Sarah's building, it's a very busy culture. You see lots of really busy kids that are up and asking questions and doing stuff and messy, which those are my people. And so I love seeing that. And education just looks so different everywhere you go. And you could just tell that it landed with the group of kids she had. She had the flexibility to adapt to that. I had the opportunity to introduce myself to the board and to Dr. Carnell. At deadline, we weren't sure if we're going to have Dr. Malika or not, so I included this slide. So I'll kind of speed through that. I did want to point out the bottom star there, JV basketball and baseball coach. And so, as you guys know, traditionally the Teacher of the Year and the Regional Teacher of the Year present towards the end of the day. And so I definitely appreciate you guys accommodating my schedule. Today is second day of tryouts, and in some of the meetings to come, we've got some contests that are happening on board meeting dates. So I appreciate you guys moving us up. It's been an extremely busy year. Or maybe you don't know that a lot of teachers recognized as Michigan Teacher of the Year leave the classroom or excused from the classroom for the year, which isn't my case. And so running an alternative school, which is largely built on relationships and trust, it's incredibly difficult with the number of obligations that we have. And so on days like today, I set up Zoom meetings with my class, and we go and we talk, and we just talk about their day and things that are new and what they're up to for the weekend. We're fortunate enough to have, being a hunting community, we're fortunate enough to have tomorrow off so everybody can get up north so they can get to their deer blinds. So we have those opportunities to connect. So I want to introduce a little bit about why I went into teaching, because I've told about what I do now and what I do with my alternative school. And I think that I think it does a really disservice to explain my experience without talking about the reasons I went into teaching, which I failed to do the first couple times I met with you guys. And so, now that I run an alternative school, and for those of you that don't know what an alternative school is or aren't familiar with it, it's typically students that are at risk of failing out, and they have a number of factors that go into that, but they're at risk of not getting a high school diploma. And so when I first went to Central Michigan in the fall of 1999, my original major was in business. And the following summer after my freshman year, I was fortunate enough to land a job at a place called Teen Ranch, which was an amazing, amazing juvenile detention center that changed lives. And so through working with those students there, and again, having the influence of my dad, who's a high school counselor, through my experiences there in December of my sophomore year, I really saw a need to use some of my natural attributes to go into a profession where I could use those every day. And even though even with that, working with at-risk teens, alternative ed wasn't what I envisioned, but it's absolutely, outside of my family and faith, probably the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And so with that, I did want to allow Sarah to introduce herself and talk about what she's here for.
Well, hello. Thank you so much for having us. We're very excited. I am Sarah Kresnick. I am a first grade teacher at Discovery Elementary, which is part of Kentwood Public Schools. Kentwood Public Schools is very unique to Michigan. It is the most diverse district in all of Michigan and 6th in the country. We represent students from 119 countries, speaking over 112 languages. Within my classroom, of 22, I have at least 7 ML learners, and it is my absolute privilege that I get to teach with them every day. The culture and everything that they bring is wonderful, and it really adds to all of our learning and appreciation for each other. I am a mom.
Explain ML learners.
I'm so sorry. ML learners, that is the up-and-coming new ESL, EL term for multilingual learners. Thank you. And so I am a mother of 4. My oldest is 16, and he has always been our hardest child, but he has taught me the most about raising a child as well as teaching children. He was always struggled in school with behavior, and when it came down to it, he was diagnosed as ASD and hyperactive, and required a lot of special needs during his schooling. Now he's a junior in high school, and we're still trying to find our way through the high school, having a high schooler, and how it looks with a alternative route. And so that's really helped me understand student behavior as communication and also how to help all students. And so that's kind of what I will be talking about today.
Real quickly, if we just
Sure.
review the demographics of our district,
Sure,
I
sorry.
think it's important to reintroduce ourselves each time where we're from, the students that we teach. And so my district has around 2,400 students. My individual alternative ed has between 50 and 55 typically, and we represent a large rural farming area. And so you can see my demographics. In terms of that, we lack diversity, and we tend to be on the lower socioeconomic end. And so it's been amazing to go to districts like Kentwood and schools like Discovery Elementary and see how, especially in Sarah's room, you can see, as you mentioned, like 119 different countries are represented in your school. You can see the way that they celebrate that diversity and allow for that identity to be part of their classroom. And so it's really amazing to see how educators like Sarah are able to include that in her curriculum.
Oh, and then with Kentwood Public Schools, we just went through a huge redistricting project within our district and opened our 11th elementary building, and now and they are applying for their IB certification as well. And so a lot of this enrollment information was from last year. So our enrollment is down, but the students that were enrolled in Discovery went to the new building. And so we are down to like 475 students, and we have 3 ASD classrooms, 2 specifically geared towards our lower elementary students and one specifically for our elementary students. We also have a gifted and talented program with one section at our building that students have to, it's a lottery system for them to be in. So we have all ranges of academic needs that are being met in our school. And so that is very exciting as well. We are a suburb of Grand Rapids, but we are also known as a destination district for families that are immigrating to the country. They have large communities of Bosnian families as well as Kinyarwanda, and I'm trying to think of others, but it's become a destination district, which has been very exciting as well. Okay. Okay. Now you get to hear about all of the wonderful things that we do in Kentwood as far as our how to involve and engage students from all different areas and all different needs. One of the things I keep in mind in my classroom as a first grade teacher is that behavior is communication, and with 55% of behavior being body language, and then 38% being your tone of voice, only 7% is left for the words that you speak. And so with first graders, there are some times where their behavior speaks louder than their words, and knowing that they're doing their best even when it looks like perhaps they are not. And so that is why I'm here today, is to talk to you about what teachers do in Kentwood, but also it seems as though with all the recognition of the Blue Ribbon schools, it sounds like there are teachers everywhere that are providing these supports to students in their classroom as well. So just kind of using student behavior as a lens, and one of my favorite quotes that I think about all the time is, they're not giving you a hard time, but they're having a hard time. And that helps put your mindset into helping the child as opposed to taking things personally like they're doing it to me. And just trying to think about why are they, what's the behavior? Is it because they aren't understanding what I'm teaching, or is it because they are hungry or they are tired, or their basic needs have not been met? And so it's up to me as the classroom teacher to make sure that I am attuned to that, and the relationships that I build with that student will also help them get the needs met to lessen the load for their need for engagement. Why it matters. Students' engagement directly affects their learning outcomes, but as far as having students, like if I reflect on their behavior and think about how, what is that behavior meaning to me, it's not necessarily going to be something personal, like I had mentioned before, and it helps to build a stronger connection. And so teachers can use their connections with their students in order to help reach them. I know in my classroom, I do a lot of greeting at the doorway. I do a lot of like a temperature check, like, oh, you look kind of sad today. How can I help you? Or what kind of breakfast did you have today? And providing those school lunches and school breakfasts are really important. We have breakfast in our classroom, and it's kind of like our little family breakfast time where students are eating and talking about things that they did the day before, and that kind of helps build the relationships between our students, but also with our language diversity, helping to facilitate those conversations with their peers. I kind of already spoke about how the different behaviors what they might tell us. So they might tell us that they need attention. Sometimes students seek attention in not the greatest of ways. And so it's my opportunity to say, hey, if you need my attention, you can always just like either raise your hand or give me a secret signal, or let me know that you need help. And so providing a behavior that is a substitute for an undesired behavior has really helped in our cases. We're finding a lot of sensory dysregulation, and overstimulation has really affected students from pre-COVID versus now. And so helping students regulate and have time for movement and a lot of time to like, I've implemented doing a lot of crossbody work, and then we also do mountain climbers for like our heavy work. So I will have students do a lot of sensory things in order to help regulate them, so then we can sit down and focus for our learning. There are some strategies that we can use, looking for those before behaviors, and then looking for the outcome to try to find patterns and help to see how that would work. I know we use a FBA behavior identifier in our building for our tiered systems of support. And so we do have a tier 2 behavioral team that helps assist teachers by offering structured breaks or taking students on walks. I have a little drinking fountain across the way that it has cold water. And so I'll say, hey, do you want to go get a drink of cold water and then come right back? And so having just these little breaks set in there for children is really helpful. We also do like a check-in, check-out, which I'm sure you've heard about before, where students have prior relationships with their teachers from previous years, and they work to go and they get a little pep talk in the morning, and then they come back, they feel great, and then at the end of the day, they get to go and show the wonderful things that they did to that teacher, and they get celebrated there as well. I know that in our building, we also talk about less correction and more connection. So before even correcting a child's behavior, if it is unsafe, obviously we'll correct it immediately. However, like some unwanted behavior, such as like playing with a little toy that they really, really like. It's very exciting. Just kind of saying, wow, that's such a great toy. I really love that. Where did you get that? That's so cool. All right, let's keep it safe and go put it in your locker so that you can have it after school. And they usually, with that connection, helps correct their behavior, and then we can move on to other things as well. I also like if kids do well, they can. So understanding that every child is doing their very best. And this kind of goes back to my oldest son. I remember when he was in 6th grade and he was it was really challenging for him. And his social worker mentioned to me that that it must be really hard to be Xander. And I go, yeah, that makes sense. And then he would always be like, I'm trying my very hardest and it's never enough. And I said, okay, so when we're correcting behavior, that doesn't mean our whole day is gone. It just means we're moving on and we're still have opportunities to make better choices and to show everybody how great you are. And so I love assuming best intention for students and kids. With doing this, with being Regional 3 Teacher of the Year, I've had the opportunity to speak to other colleges like CMU, and I just went to Dearborn University of Michigan and got to speak to some incoming teachers or student teachers. And one of the things that I found has been so rewarding and so impactful was some collaboration of research that I have done on specific behaviors, what it communicates, what it shows that students need, and then what's it an opportunity for as far as a replacement behavior or an opportunity to build a bigger connection with that student. One example is I had a student last year who any little thing would set her off. She would get very upset. If her pencil broke, she would fall into pieces. The same as if she bumped into somebody or if she fell and scraped her hands. All of these things would create a very, very big meltdown. And so I really wanted to help her see the difference between a small problem and a big problem. And by using some techniques of, hey, do you remember, like, how big is an ant, would you say? And she would show me how big it was. And I said, okay, well then, how big would an elephant be? And so she said it would be so big. And I'd be like, is it so big it would crash through the ceiling? And she's like, no, it would still stay in there. And so I said, okay, so when you're thinking about a problem, if you have an ant-sized problem, we should have an ant-sized reaction. And if we have an elephant-sized problem, we should have an elephant-sized reaction. And somehow these are not matching. So let's think about some times where you would need some help, and that might be your elephant problem, and I'm always here to help you. And then what if you have a little ant problem, you can just brush that off and move on. And so all day she would find these things. She'd be like, oh, just an ant problem, no big deal. Just an ant problem, no big deal. Or she'd have like, someone would say something to her and she would start like holding on to it. And I said, listen, if you have that little ant and it's crawling all over you, what are you going to do about it? I said, are you going to let it sit there and crawl in your hair and on your neck and tickle you? And she's like, no. And I said, just brush that off. And so while we're sitting anywhere, if she was having a hard time with focusing because she was still thinking about that small like problem that she was having, I could just be like, small problem, brush it off. And so I taught the whole class about it, and so we all kind of had that as our our communication and what to do if it's a small problem versus a larger problem that needed some adult help. And that really helped meet her social need for understanding a problem that she may need help with versus what she what might just be something that she could solve on her own or just kind of dismiss. So this has been very helpful for student teachers as well to kind of think about the different behaviors and how it shows the needs of students. The last thing, or no, actually I have a couple more. The classroom routines and structures are vital. You can have relationships all you want, but your students need to know what to do. So if they don't know what to do, then they can't read your mind. So having a visual schedule, especially with all of our ML learners in our building, it's very important that we have visuals and things remain the same in our routine so that they know what to do when. And so when those routines and structures are put into place and taught well and positively, it really helps your relationship with students because you can find what they're doing great. And then it helps with everybody so that they can get along and feel included as well. Giving students choices is always a really wonderful time. It's a really wonderful opportunity for students to either tell you what they would choose or you can give those controlled choices. And so in Discovery, also, we are very well aware of trauma-informed practices and just kind of understanding that your brain wants to be the most efficient it possibly can be. And so reverting back to safe choices or things that you've always done is much easier than learning a new pathway or a new way to handle things. And so that takes time. So when teaching social strategies, that we need to have lots of time to practice and find success in those things. I talked a little bit about the strategies of relationship building, knowing student interests, going to students' games. So I go and watch a lot of soccer games and cheer for them and hockey games. And that's really wonderful to see students outside of the classroom and just really trying to find the best in students and try to bring that out. I spoke a little bit about the behavior engagement, and so I will tell you a different story that I think you'll really like. It's called when I had a student who sat very close to me at the carpet, and he would step on people's hands as he would go to the carpet and sit down, and I said, oh my goodness, I don't know if he has body awareness. And so I said, all right, we're going to take this into like a learning opportunity. So I said, okay, remember how we all agreed that we were going to help each other? And so can we help our friend learn how to stay safe on the carpet? So first, we have to make sure our bodies are safe, make sure our hands are in our laps, and then let's pretend that my friend is a explorer and the people on the carpet are sleeping alligators. And we need to try to find a way to get from one end of the carpet to the other without stepping on anybody. And so before you even begin, take a look at your path. Where would you go? And so I said, oh, there's a little tricky spot here. Let me show you how I would do it. So watch me real fast and see if this can give you some ideas. So I walk and I say, excuse me, and two friends scoot over. And I said, thank you. And then I go to the next spot and I say, excuse me, and they scoot over. And then at the end of the carpet, I just got so excited, like I just won a marathon. And then he said, I go, are you ready to try? And he said, yes. And so he did the whole thing. And when he was done, he was so happy. And he said, can I choose 2 people? And I said, absolutely. And so now we all know how to safely walk on the carpet. But like just finding like what is the need and what does he need to have taught, and then make it into a way that can relate to them and help students be successful and celebrate the successes. And so the payoff, as I'm sure you've imagined, is just I believe that engagement improves when students feel seen, heard, and supported. And then just the way that teachers respond to behavior with empathy and a strategy is so important to help create those connections so that your students enjoy being at school and enjoy learning the things that you are teaching them. Do you have any questions for me?
Thank you, presenter.
Yes.
Board members, any comments or questions? Senator Bullock and then Ms. Tilley.
Great presentation, and I'm impressed with the creativity of other resources. You want me to? The microphone, police. Just impressed, like, so, and he said he worked at a juvenile site, Team Ranch. I used to send a lot of kids there. But I just heard a lot of other resources beyond and above and beyond the typical training of just the educator. And so there was therapeutic intervention. There were different kinds of rewards, social rewards, and all kinds of these. So there was just a lot going on, and I was impressed of how you handle those youth at that age and their behaviors, which are trying sometimes.
Sure.
Absolutely. I think when you see veteran skilled teachers like Sarah, they find ways to take those tier systems and not make it seem so methodical for the younger kids, especially like they're going through a process. They find ways to redirect, and they find a way to include those interventions in what they do. And so there were a couple slides I had as well. I'm going to spare some of the details, but the one thing that I did want to mention that within my travels throughout the state, what I'm seeing is that a lot of schools are doing things a little bit differently, and that's okay. They're meeting the needs of their learner groups, which I think is great that we have that flexibility. And the most common thing that we see across all of the schools is that there's intention behind it. And I think if I go back to the start of my career, maybe it was just myself that wasn't as intentional as maybe I should have been, or maybe it wasn't as structured, but you see intention in every school. And the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 interventions is something in almost every district. They've said, hey, here's how we do this. And it's really interesting to see how they meet their learning needs through that. And so I listed a couple different ways that we did it, but really I think the most important part in North Branch area schools is not the process we follow, it's the intention that we follow. And I think we're seeing that across, as I said, across the state. So moving through that, there are a couple updates that I have as far as Michigan Teacher of the Year. As I mentioned, our deadline to turn these in is a month ago, and so there's a little bit of lag. So I had the great pleasure of visiting Stephanie in Woodhaven schools, and we saw the different tiers of support they had there. But it's just amazing to see the different ways that the schools are meeting those students' needs throughout the state. And Senator Bullock, you had mentioned when they talked about CTE, about having to introduce that early, put it in the student's mind early. What do we do early? And that's something I saw definitely at Woodhaven, and then I'm really seeing it in almost every district, and as it pertains to CTE and STEM classes. And so, like, for example, Woodhaven has a phenomenal setup with their STEM program where you walk in and it's all glass windows. It's kind of like a 4 square of classrooms. It's glass windows where you walk into the one room and it's intended more, I think, for like K through 3, and then they can see through the window what 4 through 6 is doing, and they can see what 7 and 8 is doing, and then they can see the robotics team that participates in high school events. And so with that, the kids are able to make those connections and being exposed early, because like you said, if students don't know it's an option, how can they aspire to do it? And so I think districts are doing across the state, hopefully are doing the same things that I'm seeing when I go to these different districts. And so lastly, I did get a chance to visit Detroit Hope Academy, and I mentioned with Sarah's that, when I introduced Sarah, I mentioned the different uniquenesses in school cultures. I did want to say when I visited Detroit Hope Academy, it was an amazing tour. You felt like home immediately when you walked in. They're doing great things there. The tour was guided by, I think, a 6th and a 7th grader that were just beyond nervous and like asked me 4 times, can I restart this? Can I restart that? I'm like, you're doing great. You don't have to restart anything. Within 5 minutes, we were just having a conversation as we toured. So it was really cool to see what Susan Bruton's doing there. And some other things that I've had an opportunity to do is to visit Terry Pettit with the Special Education Advisory Committee about a month ago to familiarize myself with that as well. So there's been a lot of really great growth opportunities that I've been appreciative of, and I'll continue to tell you more about them as we go through the school year. So appreciate your time very much, unless anybody has any questions or comments.
Thank you. Ms. Telly?
Thank you.
Knowing that you're between us and lunch.
I know.
And we have lots of people who are here for public
wants
comment.
Great presentation. Thank both of you. Sarah, I love your mastery of SEL. And I love the analogies that you use, the ant and the elephant. It's a great example of a very simple way to use SEL techniques. And also the statement that you made, they're not giving you a hard time, they're having a hard time. So I'm gonna steal both of those, just in case you ever hear me use them. And then also, Corey, wanted to ask you, because that was a big transition going from the detention center to alternative ed.
Yeah.
So do you feel like you're making a greater impact?
I think because I've grown from experiences like working in a juvenile detention center that I'm able to make a bigger impact because of the experience I've had through my life. And I don't think I would have near the impact that our school is able to have today if I didn't have those influences. Some of the major differences that I talk about when I go to some colleges is with the juvenile detention center, kids learn very quickly how to adapt and how to get the things they need. And I don't want to say manipulate because that makes it sound bad, but they learn how to get what they need from authority. And so going into a classroom, coming from a juvenile detention center where essentially if I said it, it happened, and then going into a classroom where you quickly learn that students have the option to stay home and they have the option not to listen and they have some other options as far as their behavior was definitely a learning experience for me. And to be honest with you, Ms. Tilley, my first couple of years, I really struggled as a teacher. I was probably somebody that there were people that pointed fingers at me and thought I wouldn't last very long. But because I had a great principal, Mark Hilton, who was more focused on helping me be a better teacher rather than here's your deficiencies, he focused on growth. And we had a great administrative team at the time. I think that allowed me to become more confident, comfortable, and develop. And so it's definitely very different. But I absolutely loved my time at Teen Ranch. It was a very unique place. Unfortunately, it doesn't exist anymore. But it was an amazing place. And there's still groups for kids that went there, Facebook and social media groups of kids that stay in contact with staff members. And I've been able to try to keep up with a couple kids from 25 years ago. So.
This gives you an opportunity to get on the forefront with some of the students that could end up in a detention center.
Absolutely.
And I definitely, visiting you in the classroom, we got a chance to see your bond with the kids and your empathy, the connection you have. So I'm sure you're doing some good work.
I appreciate that. We're doing our best. So I've got a great coworker, Dave Scalf, that makes things a lot easier too. So.
And a great snake.
And a great snake. And a great classroom pet. Yep, and a great classroom pet.
Ms. Tilley, thank you, presenters, very much.
Thank you.
All right, the time is now 12:39, and the State Board of Education Committee of the Whole stands adjourned for lunch. We will convene for the regular meeting of the State Board of Education at 1:10. 30 minutes? Okay, 1:10 it is? All right, thank you.